We're starting over again. That was just a test stream. Okay, I think I'm ready for the real thing. I'm scared shitless.
Hopefully it works this time.
Hopefully. Do you guys mind?
You know, I wonder if I should stream.
If you want.
Okay, I'm gonna start.
It's tempting.
And I'm
Should I stream?
hoping I get it. Hey, this time Nephilim gets to hear from the beginning. You guys all
Should I
get
stream
bedtime.
fire?
Yeah. Go ahead. I descended through the starry sky, my long blonde hair and red cape flew wildly as I looked to the ground below me with blue eyes. With my blue eyes.
Eyes.
Falling. I was falling. I was falling down this rabbit hole with no start nor end. I was falling. Where had I gone? Where could I go? As if I were forgetting something very important, I fell down and down through a sparkling, shining darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I must have been chasing after someone, after something. Like a girl whose curiosity was piqued by a rabbit with a watch. I was falling, down, again. This endless well seemed to lead everywhere, yet nowhere at once. Either the hole extended very deep or it descended very slow. Also, Envy, do you mind checking the stream to see if my voice can be heard?
I can't hear it personally.
Like, you can't hear my voice, or?
No, I can't hear it. I can hear you in Discord, but I can't hear your voice on stream.
What about you, Nephilim? Are you able to hear me talk and stream? Or...
I'm not watching your stream.
Okay. Let's just hope people join back. And can let me know. I hope.
I'm on PlayStation right now, so I can't check.
You're good. Was I truly even going downward? Perhaps this was all a dream, a fever dream, or in more words, a fantasy that would soon be as soon forgotten as it was had. I just held one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Now then, just how long was I supposed to keep falling? The air brushed past my fingers, my cloak ruffling upward. A quiet humming breeze caressed my cheek, as if I could hear someone's voice, a pleasant voice, a woman's voice. I strained my ears for whispers in the wind. Mind. Alice, what a time for madness, without a bit of fear or vertigo. Should you not have focused on topics more pressing? Like the darkness or the light, or how you could awaken from this dream.
Yeah, I can hear your voice.
Alright, thanks, Nephilim. But even now, you were just falling. What does it matter? What does it matter? That's a little dark. With a thump, I came across soft grass and the fall was over. Not a bit hurt, I forced myself to my feet. Up above my head, the firmament, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that whatsoever. Hence, when I
I think firmament.
Firmament, whence I fell, had not a tear in its blue canvas down about my eyes. Only unfamiliar surrounded me. I started an exploratory stroll. Haha, look, it's a rabbit. Soon I stumbled upon a rabbit who looked like a girl, or a girl who looked like a rabbit. Perhaps the correct answer was that she was both a girl and a rabbit. She had white hair and floppy rabbit ears, pale skin, and purple eyes. Her hair was tied into two low ponytails by white ribbons, a clock pin adorning her bangs. She wore gloves, an oversized blue coat with golden accents, and a red vest over a dress shirt tied with black ribbon. She also had khaki pants tucked into boots. She looked quite scared as she stood in the forest clearing. She was even holding her hands to her chest. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. Excuse me. Calling out to her caused her to jump. Where was this place? Why was I here? How could I leave to return home? I thought of what to ask her, but she recognized me as soon as I spoke, so my questions were lost in my mouth, unasked. She looked at me with troubled eyes. Alice? White Rabbit? Have you seen Her Majesty? Do you know where she's gone? Where she could go? Her Majesty the Red Queen, she must be taking a vacation of sorts. I only wish that she could have left this little rabbit a note. I'm in a bit of a panic, you see. The land can't run without its queen. She then took on a distracted look. Please let me know if you catch sight of her. I nodded. Who is this Red Queen? Who this Red Queen was, I had not a clue, but a tingling deja vu. Still, my acceptance of the request let the white rabbit breathe out a sigh of relief. Just as I prepared to propose my own question, she straightened her back in surprise. I'm afraid I have to go. I'm going to be late. The white rabbit dashed off. ... I wanted to ask some questions. Never mind that. Follow her, Alice. Although I chased after her with only a moment's pause, when I turned a corner, she was nowhere to be seen. There was only a forest path before me. I found myself in a garden meticulously kept. There was a large white gazebo in the center with a table and chairs for tea. Tailing the rabbit, I barely dashed a few paces. I hadn't realized such a place was so close by. Rather, I hadn't realized I had run this far. A conjecture tickled my mind that this world I fell into was a magical place. One with paths that pointed to one way but twisted to another, with an explanation much more far-fetched than me, just not knowing where I was running. I took a moment to catch my breath. Glancing around, I began my walk about the garden. Flowers and greenery all around, but not a person in sight. This place was beautiful. I wanted to meet the person who made it. Not quite a gardening person myself, I still appreciated a pretty place and felt a swelling excitement to explore what sights could be seen. A reminder of reality then dampened my joyful curiosity. I wanted some answers, a way out and back home. As pleasant as dreams were, one had to be able to awaken from them before they turned into nightmares. Whether this was a dream or reality had still yet to be seen. Step, step, I walked around. Hop, hop, I peered over the bushes. Soon enough, I discovered the heart of the garden, where one might sit for tea. I spotted a white-haired girl in the garden. To amend my previous thoughts, wouldn't it be right to say that I rather also appreciated a pretty person? Her hair was long and she reached her shoulders. Her skin pale and her eyes light purple. She was also adorned with a regal blue and white dress that was so long it hid her feet. Her expression was quite distant and calm. I noticed bandages wrapped upon her right hand, which was gently clasped over her left in front of her. Frivolous thoughts flew from my mind as our eyes met. Her gaze seemed to beckon me over, so I went to speak with her. She opened her mouth to speak. Are you enjoying the garden? The garden is beautiful. The gardener will be happy to hear that from you. However, if you have come here now, you should be searching for something. We should first introduce ourselves. She gave me a sad smile. I am the White Queen. Just like with the rabbit, for reasons unclear to me, I already knew who she was. Here, that should be as good as a name. Your Majesty, my name is Alice. She frowned. Don't stand on ceremony, Alice. I am not someone you need to speak with, particularly respectfully. Welcome to my garden in Wonderland. That sad smile returned to her face. Wonderland. I tasted the word on my tongue. I can't remember why or how I'm here. Not this garden, but Wonderland. Once again, she frowned. I was falling, and I couldn't remember why I was falling. I was simply falling until I fell no more. Unsure, I've forgotten something very important. That pained smile returned. You needn't force yourself to remember. Some things are better left forgotten. Perhaps it was fated for you to come here. Perhaps something is missing that you must find. This world must appear like a place of dreams. You should find the Red Queen. The missing queen whom the White Rabbit mentioned was the Red Queen. Then came a troubled look. I waited for the White Queen to continue. She hesitated to speak of the Red Queen, as if the elusive royal would appear like a ghost behind her as she spoke. I tried to imagine what sort of person the Red Queen was. She will let you return to your own reality when you meet her. You should be able to find all of the answers you are seeking for. As for where she is, that is for you to discover. Do you dislike her? ... At first she pursed her lips as if troubled again. Then came that same somber smile. That's a difficult question, Alice. So she's like that? I'll let you judge the Red Queen. You might learn something new about yourself. Shall I head off to find her now? Her face lit up a bit. Why not stay for some tea? Of course, I'd love to, but it's not quite afternoon tea time yet. She smiled, this time much happier. A later time, then, shall certainly to have tea outside of tea time wouldn't do. That smile softened into a fond one as she lowered her lids. I won't keep you for too much longer, Alice. I'm sure you will be able to find that person soon enough. Until later. Later. I waved goodbye to the White Queen and departed from her garden. Glancing back, I saw her gaze linger upon me. That poor smile of hers had turned somber again. I stepped onto a twisting path in the forest. I didn't know which way to go to find the elusive Red Queen, turning left and right. To find a queen, I thought, to seek a castle. However, the rabbit said the queen was missing, so unless the rabbit had also forgotten something very important, the queen shouldn't have been at the castle. The Red Queen, she seemed like a troubling person. The way the White Queen's face froze, tongue stuttering along at the topic of the Red Queen, made me wonder, was the latter queen a tyrant or a fool? The tutor at home liked to talk about the kingship of that sort. To me, or neither were fine. After all, who were the pleasantry to affect the mood of high queen? I hummed and walked along with a skip in my step just as I reached a rhythm in my stride. I kicked a little something, an animal, that threw me off my beat. I slowed to applaud, my mood a note dampened. Soon I heard the chatter of a girl a few trees away. Seeing not much civilization here in the forest, I followed the voice of the girl. Although she was chatting, I heard her voice alone. I passed by a few... Yep. I passed by a few bushes and soon enough found a tea party in the middle of nowhere. At a table set before a tree sat the girl. The white-clothed table was littered with all sorts of tea-time things, from a tower with cookies and cupcakes, a rubber duck, and a cake with knives in it, pitchers with dozens of tea tags, and stacks of dishes. In the center, there even laid a green vase with a dead, plucked-apart red rose beside it. Some petals sat in the water. The girl had long pink hair with uneven side bangs, pale skin, first eye red and second yellow. A smile was on her features that contrasted with her eye bags. Yeah. Her outfit was just as chaotic as the table. Under her black trench coat was a loose dress shirt tied with a large purple ribbon. She also wore checkerboard purple pants and white lace-up shoes. On her gloved hand sat two hand puppets, a white hare with a yellow straw hat and a red bow tie, and a gray dormouse with a little pink flower perched by her ear. But most glaring at all was her large black top hat, wrapped haphazardly in purple ribbons with a piece of paper taped to it. "Hello there, Alice. What did you come here for?" Her chatter ceased. Her mismatched eyes pierced through me in its place. I noticed a little thing in her mouth as she opened it. "There's no room here at the table, so don't take a seat." No room, no room?" The girl gave a wide grin, as she was wont to do frequently. In fact, it was rare the smile was wiped off her face. She moved the puppets on her hand, a sleepy mouse and a mad hare. Looking right to left, I could barely see the ends of the table set for tea. One person in such a large space. Conversely, she almost seemed lonely. "There's plenty of room, Hatter." Her smile shrunk a bit. To make my point, I took a seat in a large armchair across from the Hatter. The chair stunk of flowers, as if to clear away the shadow of an unpleasant previous sitter. I sank back into it comfortably. Blech. Then I kept sinking before I jolted back up with a shallow gasp. "There's plenty a crowd." "Three's plenty a crowd. That's rude of you to say, Alice. Not very civil of you to sit down without being invited, either." She granted me a cheeky grin and a wink. "But whatever, let's just treat you as our extra guest for tomorrow." "Not today? Aren't they the same? Yesterday, today, tomorrow? Every day is never a day different, but since I'd rather not deal with it today, we just treat it as for tomorrow. Dormouse and March don't mind. You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. She wiggled the puppets on her hands as if to explain everything. 1 was herself, 2 was the first puppet, 3 was the second puppet. "I'm scared. Alice might be blind." Her mad smile became a mad grin once more. "That's a side effect of being Alice. Don't worry. It's just a side effect of being Alice." She sneered. The pitch of her voice warped. "Don't mind their comments. She is Dormouse, and he March Hare." She paused as if waiting for me to greet the animal puppets. I waited. She waited. Her smile did not falter. In fact, it only widened in anticipation. The silence of the conversation bored me, so I relented to the Mad Hatter's wordless request. I was their guest for tomorrow, so a polite guest I decided to be. Well, hello there. Her smile became an ordinary again. I was scared she was deaf as well. Hello there, Alice. It seemed whenever she made the puppets talk, she often took on a more neutral expression and kept her mouth closed like a ventriloquist. Between the puppets, I much preferred the dormouse. If a puppet could fall asleep, she looked as if she was about to do so. I felt some pity, as that meant the March Hare would speak more. What were we talking about before? A riddle. Maybe it was this one. Why is a raven like a writing desk? Do you have an answer to that riddle? You're no fun, Alice. Relax and have some wine. There is no wine. You were invited for tea tomorrow, Alice. It's the obligation of the host to offer a guest a drink at tea time. Maybe she was an alcoholic. Hatter, I can't in good faith call this time of day tea time, nor can I call alcohol tea. Details. Add some butter. It'll be tea time eventually, so it's tea time now. We're having tea, so it might as well be tea time, don't you think? What did you come here for anyways? Although I couldn't quite say that I had come to this tea party with a goal in mind, I figured I might as well tell her. I'm searching for the Red Queen. Her brow contorted as she took a sip of her tea. Puppet sat down for just that moment. Dumping the tea away and rinsing the cup, she poured herself another drink. Her mismatched eyes narrowed. Oh, her. The Hatter placed her lips to the rim of her teacup and stared at me. A minute passed, all 60 seconds consisting of staring before she ducked down under the table as if to find an item and popped back up again. So what do you guys think of this so far?
It's interesting.
I'm not sure.
It's definitely intriguing so far.
It is.
Yeah. Her expression was back to its usual state. Stay and chat for a moment. I'll help you with a little something regarding Her Majesty. The Hatter poured me a cup of tea and slid over a plate of sandwiches. The Hatter's smile became wide. The plate hurtled towards me, forcing me to hurriedly grab it. At least sandwiches spilled all over my lap. Luckily, the cup of tea arrived much more calmly. I took a taste, finding Earl Grey. Hey, that's the tea I have. Is it tomorrow already? At the very least, it wasn't time for afternoon tea. If I'd known I would have tea now, I would have stayed a little longer to have some with the White Queen as well. It was not that people couldn't have tea outside of afternoon tea, but it was a principle of things. If people drank tea any time of the day, they would drink it all day. I sipped some more, enjoying the citrusy flavor of this black tea. Today is tomorrow for yesterday, don't you think? Unless she doesn't think. That would have been rude of you to ask. She's just normal. Orthogonal? I'm certainly sitting up quite straight. But regarding the Red Queen, do you have some news about her? I'd say I have some business with her instead. Something to do with meat and flesh and all the other red things that a queen might have to do with. Aren't you a hatter? She grinned wildly. Yes, not a butcher. Unless your meat is made out of that. While talking about all things unappetizing, I took a bite of a sandwich filled with an ambiguous color. A milky sweetness melted in my mouth. I tasted some sort of fruit inside. Maybe it was mango or kiwi or strawberry. Satisfied with the pleasant sweetness. I took another sip of tea. This tea and these sandwiches are delicious. Thank you, Alice. You made them? Compliment to you then. The Hatter grinned with a wink. Wow, such flattery. Since you've put me in a good mood, I guess we can go ahead with Her Majesty's matter. She smiled as if laughing. In fact, she's been sitting here with us the whole time. I sat up even straighter in confusion. Glancing around, I saw no queens in sight, not a human nor animal, besides the two of us here. The Hatter rolled a chair over and pulled a cloth off from over the chair's holdings. Ta-da! Nausea ran up my spine. On the chair sat a chunk of meat dressed up in a tattered human clothes. Still dripping red, the flesh seemed to ripple, undulating. How do you spell it? How do you say it, MB? Undulating? Undulating? Undulating. Was it rotting or was it still alive? My head spun as I squinted at the thing. This meant no. This thing resembled a human torso with half a neck and chopped off limbs, dolled up with what could have been fancy clothes. This was surely human flesh. I sensed an odd familiarity to the torso, but also felt as if I was looking at it from an incorrect angle. This was the torso of a regal woman. This was raw human flesh. If it
showed what it looked like, actually?
Oh, that would be freaking trippy. This is the Red Queen. The Hatter's eyes narrowed again, brows furrowed but still smiling. An inappropriate question flitted across my mind. Could we consider it as sitting if it didn't have legs? I suppose yes. I thought you said you weren't a butcher, Hatter. We definitely couldn't consider this a hat. Having just eaten, the strawberry taste in my mouth turned into a meaty texture like raw pork. I could almost taste sweet, rotten fat. I swallowed. Her expression returned to normal. I wondered if the Hatter wanted to make me sick. The Hatter gave me a wide smile. Yes, I'm a Hatter. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Too distracted by the surprise, the feeling of my fingers almost felt like wet ground meat, even though I was sure that my digits were still attached to my palm. The image lingered uncomfortably behind my eyelids, not with disgust, but with another inexplicable emotion, a negative one for sure. I looked at the torso again, and it seemed so still. I saw exposed bone and a shattered trachea. Trachea, thank you. The cut must not have been wholly clean, made with a blade sharpened not quite enough yet, also dulled not quite enough. Yes, this was the Red Queen. I knew not why I knew, but a voice in the back of my head told me that this was the Red Queen, a part of the Red Queen. I'm afraid Her Majesty can't speak right now. The Hatter stirred her tea and popped a bite-sized sandwich into her mouth, munching happily. She sneered. Aha, don't look like that, Alice. The Hatter didn't dismember Her Majesty. Yes, Hatter is innocent. Since only the Hatter spoke up in defense of herself, I wasn't particularly inclined to believe her. But whether or not she did kill the Red Queen, the end result sat before me. What should I do now? I murmured my uncertainty at this dead end aloud. She smiled as if nothing was wrong. What do you mean? All you have to do is find all of the other pieces. If you have anything you need Her Majesty for, all you need to do is put her back together. Have you forgotten, Alice? dot dot dot. That sounded mad. So mad I wanted to laugh. This is Wonderland after all. All I needed to do was find the pieces. That was right, Alice. That was all you needed to do. It would either be terribly simple or terribly hard. I hope that no one had fed the Red Queen to the pigs or minced her up for a patty. Regardless, all I needed was head and torso if I wanted to talk to her. Ask her about the secrets to returning home. May I take the body with me? The Hatter narrowed her eyes. Alice, you were a civilized girl. Did you really want to lug around a piece of meat like you were some meat seller selling to the cannibals? The Hatter winked cheekily. No, that wouldn't be fair, don't you think? Once you find most of her parts, let's just say the limbs, I'll give you a special present and help you out again. She patted a box off to the side of the table. The box was just big enough for a cat or a cake or maybe something like a hat. Of course, don't peek or try to find out what the present is. It wouldn't be a surprise like that, and I'll be very, very upset if you cheat. With that smile on her face, I couldn't see her upset. Only muddled sincerity came through her voice. The Hatter's mismatched eyes wandered, looking distracted as she did so. Now then, I've got to grab something off the stove before it burns. Question mark? The Hatter got up from her seat and walked away. Here I was alone with the Red Queen's flesh. It was missing all 4 limbs and a head, so to make her whole, I would need to find 5 parts. I hope that my search would be easy. Okay, so should I sneak around and peek or listen to the Hatter?
Listen to that.
Sneak around.
You guys both said opposite. Shit. I kind of
Which
want.
do you think would be the better idea?
I tiptoed over to the other side of the table and surveyed what was around. I couldn't help but feel the headless slab of human watching me, but I ignored the Red Queen's body, knowing that I would be seeing it often enough. Looking over my shoulder, I was certain that the Hatter had yet to return. I moved to find the present box on the cluttered table. The Hatter hadn't tied up the box. Hey, thank you for the raid, Black Sheep, Sheep. I'm just gonna call you Sheep. But thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. The Hatter hadn't tied up the box particularly at all. I could open it and close it as if I had never disturbed this mysterious prize to begin with. I cracked open a small gap so that nothing could come flying out. Nothing escaped from the box. Instead, I heard a strange strangled noise from whatever lied inside, a gurgling, drowning voice that caused chills to settle on the back of my neck. In one go, we're playing, Who is the Red Queen? It's like a Yuri type game. I don't know how to explain it. Kind of like Doki Doki.
Just explain it as an Alice in Wonderland type game.
It's an Alice in Wonderland type game, kind of like Doki Doki in a sense. It's interesting so far. In one go, I took the lid off the box. Oh gosh, Envy. Are you watching the stream still? Because it's showing.
I am.
Inside was a head, a bloodied head. The head seemed so familiar, but I couldn't quite make out the face as if the box had been jostled. The hair had become so matted with blood, the exact hue of its light hair color was difficult to make heads or tails of. I squinted. Spinning the world was spinning. A sharp pain burst through my temple, and I rested a palm on my head to stop a growing pulsing headache in my skull. I reached out a shaking hand. Well, I am going to lurk and keep you up. Alright, thank you for the lurk. I appreciate you lurking. I reached out a shaking hand to adjust the head in the box. Step, step, step. Footsteps interrupted me. I feel like Mad Hatter. I thought I only just said not to peek Alice, ... The Hatter brandished a hammer in her hand. The head face of it glowing red as if it had been left on the stove. Cheaters get what cheaters deserve. I backed up, crashing into the table, nearly tripping on my own cloak. She raised her arm with the hammer in hand and... crack. Dead end. Death 1. Well, there's different endings to the game. So...
So I guess I was right.
You guess so. Yeah,
I guess you shouldn't have snuck up.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's do this again. This time, hopefully, we get better ending. There's different endings to the game.
It's funny the Hatter says she's not a fucking butcher, but she just butchered your skull.
I know, right? Keep
Is that what
reading it.
happened?
Yes,
Oh.
you got killed.
Oh, that sucks.
Skip all this part. Okay. Listen to Hatter. Alright, we're gonna listen to Hatter this time. I kind of skipped all that. I shook
I'm
my
going to
head.
see Freya.
Instead of antagonizing
Nice.
the Hatter needlessly, I decided to take another sip of tea. I would see what was inside the box eventually. The Hatter returned soon enough. Her puppets were absent, rather in her hand was a hammer, glowing bright with heat. She chucked it to the side with a thumb and let the metal sizzle on the ground. What was the hammer for? She grinned. Does a hammer need a reason to be? Anyways, go ahead and try to find some of the Red Queen's body, an arm, a head, or maybe two. Just bring them back here for me to attach to this. She pointed to the torso. It'll still be tea time when you come back. Let's just count you as an extra guest for the next tomorrow as well. To be exact with time, now was not tea time. I suppose there's not much else to do here. The Hatter's expression dampened a bit as I responded. I looked for my empty cup of Earl Grey and lifted myself up from the armchair. For what it was worth, I quite enjoyed this odd hour tea. Shaking my legs just to make sure they hadn't fallen asleep, I started to leave. Until later. I don't know what that Mad Hatter just said. Off Wederson or something? I don't know. She leaned back into her chair and made a lazy wave my way. Somehow she looked lonely. I returned to another forest path, walking forward and forward. After moving for a while, I realized I had no idea where I was going in simpler words, I was lost. I walked around in a few circles before looking upward. Above, I saw a cat who resembled a girl, or a girl who resembled a cat. Leah Shirley stood the tall branch of a tree. She had sharp green-yellow eyes, pale skin, a cat-like smile. Her brown hair was tied into a ponytail with an orange ribbon.
That's your cat.
Yep. Her two cat ears on top of her head, looking quite fluffy. She wore an orange cape with 3 black stripes and a fluffy white collar with a tattered short black dress underneath, adorned around her neck was a collar with a bell. Her visible arm had a shackle around the wrist for her clawed hands. There appeared to be something like stitches at the point where arm and shoulder connected. Ugh. Unlike the white rabbit, this cat, the Cheshire cat, I couldn't help but wonder if she was actually neither a cat nor a girl and was just pretending to be either. I met her eyes nodding in silent greeting. Her grin stretched across her face as she stared right back. Sharp teeth filled her mouth and claws adorned her hands. This was probably a cat. Cheshire.
Cheshire.
Cheshire. The flame that was her tail flickered, and she hopped down to meet me closer. I don't suppose you'd tell me which way I should go. Her eyes narrowed in amusement. I posed a silly question that I expected no answer for. After all, I was asking a cat for directions. Depends on where you want to go. To my surprise, I received a response. To find the Red Queen. Ah, the crazy one. Are you sure you'd prefer not to go with the nice one? The one I'm searching for is the Red Queen. Alright, the Mad Queen. Then again, we're all mad around here. That is except for Her Majesty, the White Queen. She's too sad to be mad. If you're looking for the Red Queen, up, down, left, right might help. Question mark? The cat jeered. Self-awareness, Alice, self-awareness. The Cheshire cat vanished into thin air. Soon enough, she reappeared. Just go to the White Queen instead. Maybe you'll find something on the way. She started to fade away again before popping back. I forgot to ask, how's the Hatter doing? She seems to be fine. It's still tea time over there. Me, it's always tea time with that one. A third time she disappeared, leaving with a grin, lingering up in the air before that too vanished. This was a grin without a cat instead of a cat without a grin. The third time was the charm. The cat did not return. I can't say I've seen a cat quite like that before. Then again, Cheshire wasn't really a cat. Find the White Queen, go up, down, left, right. Which one should I do? Find the White Queen or do the other one? Guys? Which one should I do? Find the White Queen or go up, down, left, right?
I'm not sure.
I go with the White Queen.
Okay. Remembering that the Cheshire cat mentioned a White Queen, I decided to give the Queen a second visit. I thought that I could easily replicate the route to her garden, having only recently been there. However, the more I walked, the more apparent it became that I was lost. I passed the tree to the right a handful of times already. I was going in circles, getting nowhere closer to the beautiful garden and its equally pretty owner. I let out a sigh and chose a bush at random to walk through instead of following a path. My cloak saved me from being scratched by the leaves and branches of the bushes. I came out on the other side to a particularly tall tree and a large bird cage. Hey, the Queen's trapped. I spotted the White Queen inside the bird cage. Behind her was a leg. She sat with a expression as she looked up at my looming figure. Hello? We meet again, Alice. I hadn't expected that I would be trapped here again. I'm a little embarrassed that you're seeing me like this. I contemplated just asking for the leg and leaving. No, that would be a terribly foul thing to do, especially to a pretty person like her. Although in a way, it almost seemed like a good idea to leave a pretty bird locked up in a cage for oneself. What the fuck? Those thoughts. After all, how would you catch her if you let her go free? Is that the Red Queen's right leg? So it would appear. To find the Red Queen, you may have to find her parts as well. Even so, she would be able to help you find your way back home. I'm sorry, Alice. Don't apologize. The key to my prison is atop the towering tree. Would you help me open this cage, Alice? Yes, of course. Agreeing to the request, I walked over to the tall tree that the White Queen gestured toward. How tall it was, I couldn't say. If I angled my head and squinted, I could see the glimmering of a silver key at a high branch above. I circled that tree in front, the front and the back, the sides left and right. They all looked equally hard to climb. As I pondered on how to scale the tree, a little bird approached. It was fat and pink with beady eyes and a tiny black beak. Chirp, chirp. With all the talking animals and not quite animals in Wonderland, I had an inkling that this one might speak as well. Perhaps it spoke French like a French bird. Bonjour. Bonjour. Unfortunately, I knew little French. My practice had grown rusty so much that the tutors would be ashamed, but I tried to pull out at least one more phrase. Quest machate or something? I don't fucking know. I fucking hate French. Chirp.
Parlez-vous français?
Thank you. I almost...
Parlez-vous?
I don't know French at all.
Me neither.
Is it surprising that the American knows a little bit of French?
Yes, it's actually
My
surprising.
dad knows French because he worked in Quebec, but
I must have said the wrong words as the poor bird began to tremble. Parlez-vous Anglais? I don't know. Yes, yes.
Parlez-vous anglais?
Yes, yes.
Parlez-vous
Chirp.
anglais?
Okay. Yes, yes. Chirp, chirp. Cats, no cats, please. What are you doing? What are you doing? Chirp, chirp. I'm trying to get that key up there. What are you doing, little bird? Chirp. Just having lots of fun every day, not doing anything in particular. Not now that the Red Queen, Her Majesty is missing. Wonderland is so much more wonderful. We can play and frolic as we want. Chirp, chirp. Auntie Bird got in trouble for breaking Her Majesty's laws, and now there's no more Auntie Bird. Chirp, chirp. I was so sad, so sad. Her Majesty was so scary, so scary. You won't tell on me, right? Chirp, chirp. Chirp, chirp. You look like a nice person. Chirp. Much nicer than her. Much nicer than her. Oh, I see. I'll help you with the key. Chirp. Puffing out its little chest, the bird flapped its wings and took off upward into the sky. It flew and flew and flew, but soon enough became tired. Not reaching the key on the tree, the bird faltered and fluttered back down. It dipped its head in disappointment. Sorry, I couldn't do it. Chirp. Kill the bird, pet the bird.
Pet the bird.
Wyatt. Kill the bird or pet the bird? Kill the bird or pet the bird?
pet it.
Don't worry about it. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me and its large round eyes glittering with surprise. Next time I'm picking the option for killing it.
Why would you kill the bird?
Just to see what happens.
Fair enough. But birds are nice.
Yeah. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me with its large round eyes glittering with surprise. After the failed first attempt at the key,
kill the bird?
I don't even know how. Now I'm very
Would you
curious.
just twist it and break its neck?
Maybe? This game is dark. This game is dark, apparently.
That's what I was
swear,
thinking.
my attitude is dark at times.
After the failed first attempt at the key, I returned to the White Queen's side. She looked fitting in the cage, pretty like a flower preserved forever in glass. Again, I thought that she was beautiful. Really, she was beautiful. That's true, Alice. Even so, I couldn't let her stay trapped, not to mention the Red Queen's leg. I wasn't able to find a way up. Do you have any ideas for what I should do, White Queen? Over there are some mushrooms. If you eat the ones to the left, you will grow. If you eat the ones to the right, you will shrink. I think it will be helpful. Magic mushrooms. I was hesitant to eat mushrooms picked from an unknown wilderness, but I felt that I could trust the White Queen.
Shrooms.
Why I didn't know. Haha, well this is Wonderland, isn't it? I had forgotten something important. The feeling of forgetting tingled in the back of my mind whenever I saw the White Queen. Finding the mushroom, she pointed out I faced a choice.
Left is to grow, right is to shrink.
There was a little yellow one with black spots and stem with a large purple one with white spots and stem. Grow or shrink?
Left. Well, grow.
I ate a left mushroom.
You want it to grow so you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ate a left mushroom and immediately began to grow. My line of sight rose higher and higher as if I were a bean sprout. Once I stopped growing, I could reach the top of the towering tree if I reached out my arm. Fantastically, my clothes grew with me. I cautiously pinched the silver key and removed it from the tree, holding it lightly as to not break it with my now giant hands. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. I was much too big. The magic will wear off in the meanwhile. Would you accompany me to the chat, Alice? Accompany to chat, Alice? That may be for the best. I would have to wait till I reverted back to my original size to open the door. Is the invitation for tea sometimes still open? Yes, always. Then shall I ask about what sorts of foods and tea you would like to drink to see what I might expect? What's your favorite tea? White tea. Do you prefer black tea still? How did you know? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point the conversation turned to flowers. Perhaps it was that she felt ambivalently on a floral teas. You are welcome to visit the garden anytime. I couldn't find the way to the garden today. Perhaps getting lost had been for the better, as I found her in the end. Yes, that's what happens when I'm not there. But Wonderland should lead you my way if you think of me, at least for you, Alice. I have nowhere to be but the garden. She paused, looking at something in the distance that I could not see. Would you believe me if I told you I can see the future? I looked in her eyes and ascertained a calm certainty. I didn't feel that she would lie, yet I couldn't quite believe her words either. I wondered what I had forgotten, what I was doubting. Rather than answer, I decided to play along. Can you change the future you see? Why do you ask? Otherwise, isn't it lonesome? I don't believe that the future is predestined, but the solitude of such a power would also be the fate of a queen in this world. Her words sounded contradictory, even for the Red Queen, especially for the Red Queen. The White Queen spoke of fate as if still trapped by something more than just this birdcage. I couldn't understand. We talked a little longer. I felt a tingling up my arms and began to revert back to my usual size. The world warped and finally popped back into its proper place. I twirled a I need a talking break. What are you guys doing?
Playing Final Fantasy.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for
Out of
chilling.
work.
Thank you guys for chilling with me and putting up with me talking like reading all these. Ugh.
I don't mind
No worries.
listening to it.
Yeah. It's a very interesting game so far. I quite like it.
Seems like it.
I'm gonna go use the washroom. I will be back in a
Yeah.
second.
Okay. That was a nice long stream.
Are you finished streaming?
Yeah. I'm back in control of Kratos.
Nice.
Next is to go to Alfheim.
Not bad.
Deal of the week. What's the deal of the week? Oh. Meh.
What?
Kill the Justice League. The $100 version.
Huh?
Get it now for 40% off with the Joker coming soon.
What's Kill the
Apparently
Justice
we'll be
League?
able to play. It's the live service fucking Justice League game.
Oh, Suicide
Where you
Squad?
actually can, yeah. Yeah, that.
Fair enough.
Apparently the Joker is coming soon.
Oh. The Joker was weird looking in Suicide Squad.
He looks weird.
Yeah.
I saw it and it just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't like Joker in the Suicide. I never watched Suicide Squad, but Joker looks weird.
You mean
Jared
fuck, I
Leto
can't
or whatever.
remember. Yeah, Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Joker does look fucking weird.
Yeah.
I feel you on that. Fucking feel you on that. Oh shit. I just noticed my phone was at 8%.
Oh wow.
Golem is on sale.
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Ready to continue this reading, or you guys want... Yeah.
It's up to you.
I'm ready.
Alright. Back to the bedtime story, part 2. Just kidding. I twirled around to check that all was well. Identifying no issues, I picked up the key that I dropped to the ground at some point and inserted it into the lock of the White Queen's birdcage. With a smooth click, the cage unlocked and I opened the door.
Open sesame.
Yes, exactly. The White Queen stumbled out of the birdcage, her legs still wobbly from sitting her in the cage for so long. She let me hold her steady till she rebalanced herself. Thank you. You're welcome. I ought to return to the garden now, but my invitation is always open, Alice. I'll see you later if you're willing. Now we got a leg! Woohoo! We got the Red Queen's leg. She handed me the Red Queen's leg. It was dressed in a black tight shoe and tied to the ankle with a ribbon. Freed from the birdcage, the White Queen departed to return to her garden. Having
It's
attained
so
one
casual
limb...
that she just hands you the leg.
Exactly. It's like, here, have a leg. Having obtained one
Need a
limb,
leg
I
up?
searched around for another. Exactly, need a leg up. Before I knew it, the day passed. I looked toward the sky, where the sun had begun to set. Letting out a yawn, I realized I needed a place to sleep for the night. Hatter or White Queen? Meanie. Alright, who
White
should...
Queen.
Okay.
White Queen.
Thinking to the internal tea time of the Hatter, I decided that seeking out the White Queen would be more productive. I dropped the limb off at the Hatter's place, thinking that bringing a piece of the dismembered person's body to the White Queen again would be quite appropriate. That would be appropriate. I walked to the White Queen's garden. This was a pretty place, and she a pretty person as before. She was watching the distance, looking at I did not know what. I wondered if my gaze toward her was like her gaze toward her object. Alice, you weren't the one she wanted. Hello? The White Queen smiled. Yes, but I was the one in front of her right now. Good evening, Alice. It's almost time for dinner. Would you like to stay for a meal? Is it that time already? Her question made me realize the time once more. I would love to. Before long, a beating array of foods around its way into the table, carried over by what seemed like magic but was in fact little fairy lights. First came the appetizer. I put a forkful in my mouth and tasted nothing. Bland. I haven't felt particularly hungry since I came to this world. I felt little thirst, little hunger, little urge to expel waste, all inconvenient facets of mortal life. Perhaps this really was a dream. Her smile became somber. I know. This world must appear like a place of dreams. I picked at the food, my fork clinking against the plate as I moved items back and forth. She looked like a doll, perfectly practiced tabled manners, indifferent expressions. Nothing told me what she felt, only that she would complete this task of eating. The main course arrived soon enough. This was also bland. Silence fell upon the dinner table. Certainly speaking too much during a meal was frowned upon by some, but this was much too polite. What sort of upbringing did she have? A queen was a queen, but I knew not which country she ruled, nor what courtiers she had. The White Queen was a mystery. My fork and knife clinked listlessly against the plate. Eventually dinner came to a close with dessert. As the little cakes were delivered to the table by the same servants, I perked up at the sight of her sweets. I took a bite. The cake tasted too light. As I looked down at the cake in disappointment, I heard a choking cough. The White Queen looked troubled. Water? Poofed. The cakes must have gotten switched. How so? She smiled shyly. A sweeter one for Alice and a lighter one for me was the plan. But with cakes decorated the same, someone must have mixed them up. That was surprisingly thoughtful of her. Although her plans backfired, I felt a ting of guilt for wondering if she had tried to feed me something strange. I could still eat it. Oh, I don't mean to tell you to eat something. I've taken a bite off. She turned sleepish. ... Well, no, I'll have them replaced. She called the fairies over again, and they left with the cakes. When they returned, they delivered new desserts, a vanilla ice cream sort of thing, to the table. I picked up a spoon and watched as the utensil sank into the white sweet. When I moved to take a scoop, I placed a spoonful in my mouth. A chili sweet and creamy melted on my tongue. Delicious. The White Queen smiled. I'm glad. I am unused to strong flavors. Although I liked them as a child, I could no longer recall the feelings I had back then. I had a time not too long ago where I was not allowed to eat many things or do many things at all. I feel apologetic to the chef. It's just that I've become accustomed, so even though she's gone. She looked somewhere far away, but soon refocused onto me. Her ice cream began to melt on her spoon, and she unconsciously stirred it like a cup of tea. She spoke with her sad smile. To live, one must eat and drink. That is what it means to be human. Human. A more genuine smile came to her face. I don't enjoy eating, but I rather do like tea. Should I be considered halfway there? Although it's also something I picked up from her. The Queen turned shy. You must feel bored listening to me talk about this, Alice. No, not at all. I wanted to know more about you. The shyness was lifted from her expression. If I had to choose if I liked or disliked the White Queen, I would have to say I liked her. Deep within my heart, I held an inexplicable emotion towards her that I could not identify, that I had no reason to feel. After the desserts were done with, we talked a little more, mostly about useless little things. The White Queen smiled fondly. It's late now. Would you like to stay for the night? I would appreciate it. I've no place to be or go anyhow. After a while more, we departed from our position in the garden. She brought me to a guest room, walking before me under the starry night sky. Good night, Alice. Will you head to bed as well? In a while, if I can. A little voice told me that she couldn't sleep very well. To live, one must also sleep, White Queen. Good night. Frick. Upon hitting the bed, I felt a haze of fatigue. Fatigue. Thank you. A haze of fatigue overcome my mind. My eyelids grew heavy and I fell into a deep slumber. Surely I was dreaming within a dream. I dreamed of blood. That's...
Ooh.
The next day
Sounds
and the
like a
day
mistake.
after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Once again, I was walking down the forest path. I tried to remember what the Cheshire cat had said.
Yes, sir.
Cheshire cat had said, speak in the pattern of directions to be up, down, down, left, right. I felt as if I had missed a few items, but that was all the cat had given. I backtracked to the position where I had met the cat and followed the recommended direction. Soon enough, I found myself at a crossroad. I saw no limbs, no heads in sight. Left was labeled right, right was labeled left. With wrongly written signboards, I chose at random on where to go next. Every few meters, I found a new signboard with its quaintly marked arrow. Whether or not they led to the right place was another issue. I slowed my pace to reread the signs and followed them along. Today is a rainy day. I didn't know which genius thought to put a forecast onto a wooden sign on the side of the road, but I followed the direction to go right regardless. The sky had not a drop of rain in sight. Warning, cliff ahead. As it happened, neither was there a cliff ahead. Watch out for dragons. I looked for the dragons, but the dragons did not arrive. Shameful. At some point, the text on the signs turned to insults. Fool, you don't even know who you are. Stop following these signs. How many of these will you read? I walked and walked and walked. At the end of the final sign in the chain, I reached a clearing in the forest where I spotted the white rabbit talking with a limb. She appeared a little frightened, or perhaps more concerned. I'm actually gonna save here.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, probably.
I used to play a lot of those anime games when I was. I don't remember what I was doing, but I used to play a lot of those anime style games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She appeared a little frightened, or perhaps more concerned. Your Majesty's left arm, please. I blinked, then I blinked again. Rubbing my eyes, I saw the same image. The white rabbit seemed just about to prostrate herself to a living, moving arm. The arm, despite being an arm, had taken the higher position. The ground here is dirty. You needn't crawl here. Shall I take you back to the palace, or would you prefer to go to the garden or the courtroom? In fact, do you happen to know where Her Majesty is? The arm smacked the white rabbit. She frowned, brows furrowed. ... Although I silently observed the arm, noticed me and began to crawl over one handful of grass at a time. It moved like a snake, like a worm, like a piece of flesh and bone that shouldn't have been able to move. Its writhing struggle sent a shiver up my spine. Thank you.
Oh.
The white rabbit looked scared. I didn't know if I should pick it up or kick it away. I did neither, and it reached my feet. The arm proceeded to climb up my leg, up my cloak, clinging like some sort of dirty parasite, making its slow way up until I pushed past my building disgust to hold it in my hand instead. The flesh felt cold in my palm. I sensed no heartbeat at the wrist. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a liking to you. Exactly. The Queen's dead. If you find Her Majesty, please return the limb to her and tell her that Rabbit did her best. I pray she hasn't met any trouble. A limb coming off isn't an everyday occurrence. She made quite the understatement. Yes, of course. How did you know it was the Red Queen's arm? The rabbit took on a happy, excited expression. I would recognize Her Majesty's limbs anywhere. Do you admire her very much? Yes, of course, I respect Her Majesty very much. She united Wonderland into this kingdom and kept peace with a watchful gaze on the criminal populace. She is a decisive ruler and holds an agreeable worldview. This should be her divine... Decisive.
Decisive?
Yeah, she is a decisive ruler and holds an agreeable worldview. This should be her divine right to rule Wonderland. I've heard a cat call her mad. A dangerous expression flashed through the white rabbit's eyes for barely a second. Her smile quickly became a frown. The Cheshire Cat is a known problem element here. Her expression became increasingly stressed. If Her Majesty is mad, then such madness is in essence brilliance. Although I may not always be fated to be a favored courtier, to be an aid to her is my greatest honor. I cannot be White Rabbit without Her Majesty. Her smile returned. Yes, that should be how I view Her Majesty. I gave the rabbit's impromptu speech a short round of applause, balancing the detached arm in the crook of my elbow. The rabbit became flustered. She must also like you very much. All rulers had their dissidents and supporters. A certain man once said that a ruler was better feared than loved if she could not be both. Despite all that the White Rabbit said, I knew little more about the Red Queen. The Red Queen is the ruler of all this land. What's your job, White Rabbit? Yes, she is the highest ruler of Wonderland. I deal with a little bit of everything: administrative matters, legal matters, and the personal matters of important people. Haha, since we've met a few times, I could say that I'm important, couldn't I? That's right, Alice. Question mark? To my TPID test, I received a response that made me pause. The White Rabbit took out a watch and jumped in surprise, looking at the time, quickly returning the watch to her pocket. Is it this time already? I'm afraid I must be off again, if that will be all. Thank you, Alice. Hurriedly bowing a few times, she dashed back off to work. After wandering around some more, I returned to the Hatter's place with the second limb in hand. The day came to an end, but the Hatter's clock remained at tea time. She was arguing with her hand pup. Yeah, in Wonderland, it's always tea time.
It's time for tea.
Look at the Mad
I
Hatter.
can't pull off the right cadence that they did.
Yeah. She was arguing with her own hand puppet about some sort of song, some rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. The hair on her hand was flung back and forth. I waited it out, seeing as she started laughing by herself halfway through. Apparently she couldn't sing. Her expression was a bit lonely. Once her shoulders stopped shaking, the Hatter turned to me. She gave me an awkward smile. Alice, you voyeur or something. Yeah. I see you've brought a second one. That one is 1, and this one is 2. Good work. The Hatter clapped her wrists half a dozen times. Alice, won't you join us for tea again today? Hatter made some scones. It has butter. Zee. Fucking Harry's sleeping. Thank you for the invitation. Dormouse. Another lonely but happy expression briefly flashed on the Hatter's face. Upon my response to the Dormouse, she immediately brightened up. If it would make the Hatter happy, I didn't see why not just play along. Arm. Setting aside her puppet friend, she extended an open palm toward me. I proceeded to commit lese majeste by tossing the limb over the Hatter's tea table to her. I took a seat in my armchair, seeing her clumsily catch it in her arms. At my seat there was already a cup of tea prepared. With her free hand, the Hatter opened up the dog cage and retrieved the other limb. Do you need any help with that? She winked. I have everything under control. Without another pause, the Hatter stuck the limbs onto the Red Queen's torso. The flesh sounded with a squelch as the muscle, skin, and bone began to knit into place. Still a red line remained where the limbs connected. I took a bite of scone as the Hatter said it had butter. The Red Queen's incomplete body twitched, something squirming under the skin. I spread some clotted cream and jam onto the scone. The perfect blend of sweetness made me wonder where she got the jam. It was very red. Ow! The Hatter became disgruntled, frowning. The single arm grabbed at the Hatter, smacking as it squirmed. The Hatter kicked the incomplete Red Queen, rendering the limbed hunk of meat paralyzed with shock. The Hatter forced its limbs off. A bit of blood and something else dripped onto the ground. Gripping the writhing limbs in her
Writhing.
Gripping the writhing limbs in her hands, the Hatter popped open the dog cage door with her feet and chucked them in. With a thud into the cage, the arm and leg went. Good scones. Thank you. You mentioned you also had some business with the Red Queen, Hatter, but what is it? Something to do with Red Queen, something to do with flesh. I realized that I didn't quite know. She gave a wide smile. A personal matter, Alice. I'd prefer you don't pry. I was the one gathering the pieces, so of course I wanted to know. Then again, the Hatter could just as well put this corpse together herself. A better question was how she obtained that first chunk of meat, but I doubted she would answer. I was curious. After all, not every Hatter keeps the Red Queen's dismembered body at their table, much less treats it like you do. The White Rabbit is searching for the Red Queen right now, you see. And the Red Queen is right here. At least part of her was. No one likes the White Rabbit. Why didn't you tell her, Alice? Well, I didn't feel like it. The White Rabbit was boring. I had the feeling that telling her anything about the corpse sitting with us wouldn't help me much. You've saved me from the dungeon in that dark, dank place. A hat's not enough for the cold. Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. I see. Let's commit les majestés together. Surely the Queen will forgive us for piecing her together. I much preferred this Mad Hatter. No, Alice, this is much closer to blasphemy. You have no choice but to beg the wrathful god for forgiveness, don't you know? I couldn't help but think of Osiris, the judge of the dead, cut to pieces by his own brother. Even a god king, rather a god queen, would be chopped up and rendered helpless. The tutors would be proud of me for remembering. Haha, is that so? It'll be good working with you, Hatter. I offered a hand to shake. Seeing her hesitation, I expected her to reject my outstretched hand, but she instead grabbed my finger with an expression filled with uncertainty. I thought that she would try to pull my finger off. However, she only gripped me weakly and shook it up and down before letting go once more. She was a bit gloomier for the time after. Night fell and another day ended. What did I dream of? I must have forgotten. Only 2 more limbs and a head remained. I continued on my adventure to collect the Red Queen so that I could finally meet her and find a way back home. Step, step, step. I walked around this upside-down world. In between my explorations of Wonderland, I chatted with the Hatter and she made a certain inquiry. What do you want to go back to at home? ... What indeed? Alice, what was waiting for you at home? I counted off my fingers. 2 sisters, 2 cats, a large empty home, books and tutors. With my sisters, Lori and Eddie, I was not Heidi? I don't know. I was not particularly close. The older Lorena and the younger Edith, intelligent Lorena, and precious Edith, they seemed to live in their own world apart from Alice. I preferred the cats, a white cat and a black cat. The former was cute, a little beauty like the White Queen, and the latter a little devil. As for the books, our library seemed endless. We had so many books that I could drown. Maybe a pile had collapsed on me, and I was dying, suffocating under the pages so terribly that I fell into Wonderland. The tutors would be so mad that the books were ruined. I winced at a phantom stinging the back of my legs. The poor ruler, I could already see it go red. That was my world, a boring, normal, plain world where animals didn't talk and corpses didn't move, where I hadn't needed to think of much at all. I was Alice, and that place was Alice's place. Question mark?
Sounds boring.
I fiddled with my
Oh wait,
fingers.
we live in one of those.
Exactly. I fiddled with my fingers, grasping for the correct expression to wear. A smile was always safe. I'll be off then. Step, step, step. I traversed about this place, which was not Alice's place, my place. Once again, I was in the forest in the daytime. I'm gonna save.
Yeah, probably good idea.
Yeah. Oh, we're on to chapter 2 already. I don't know how many chapters are in this game, and there's different, like, kind of endings and whatnot.
Yeah, you always gotta choose the right choice, otherwise you're fucking dead.
Exactly. I was walking around searching for clues for where the next limbs or even head could be when I heard the sound of my conversation. I followed the noise and found the oddest pair, a rabbit and a cat. The rabbit seemed upset. On the contrary, the cat was grinning deviously.
On the contrary.
Yeah, I said that. Asked the Hatter. The rabbit made an indignant smile. Hatter? The Mad Hatter? She's more cuckoo than a cuckoo? She's more cuckoo than the bird, a real nuisance. The only silver lining is how, now that the rat and hare are out of the way, she's become more of a recluse. My ears are still ringing from that time we had to pull peasants off the street to sing for royal guests. She sneered. The courts have stopped working, the kingdom's falling into anarchy. We've got filth on the ground left and right. Up and down too. The rabbit became angry. Shut up, you damn cat. You fucking criminal pretending to be a cat. What the fuck? If you weren't so busy, I'd send the cards to chain you up and throw you back into the dungeons where you belong. The cat grinned as she taunted the rabbit. Many scary threats from a rabbit. Listen up, your name is still on top of the list for execution, cat. Don't think you can do whatever you want. What the fuck? Ha, now I've got to. Alice. Erp. The white rabbit made a puking sound. The blood drained from her face when she met my eyes. She looked terrified. The Cheshire jeered. Hello? Did I interrupt a conversation? No, not at all. Hello, Alice. I hope we weren't too loud. The cat and I were just making some small talk. How have you been? Well enough, and you? Well enough as well. Well, what about me? Well, are you well? It depends, I'm a cat. The cat's punchline meant silence. Are you two friends? The rabbit frowned. No. The cat grinned. Yes. Our circles rarely overlap. We only happen to meet and talk today by coincidence. The cat made A mock frown. I'm hurt, Bunny. I thought we were friends. Cheshire Cat, please refrain from giving me unsolicited nicknames. What? The cat smiled. Bunny, you two seem to get along. No, not really. They didn't seem to get along at all. I just liked how the white rabbit thought that she could lie straight to my face about what they were talking about before. Lie, lie, lie. That was what the queen's courtiers ought to do. Hilarious. After a short three-way chat, the white rabbit pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Ah, I have an invitation for you, Alice. The white rabbit reached into her coat, retrieving an envelope from an inner pocket. She held it out to me. The Duchess has invited you to her endless party. If you're interested in attending, it is, and will always be held at her manor. I took the outstretched invitation. When is it? She gave a smile. On and on indefinitely. Ever since Her Majesty has gone missing, the Duchess has been holed up in her manor, holding a grand ball day and night. If I didn't know better, I would think that she was celebrating. The rabbit frowned as she looked into the distance. But she wouldn't be so foolish. I see. Thank you for the invitation. Tracing an oddly familiar wax seal upon the envelope, I fiddled with the invitation in my hand. I wondered where I had seen it before. The rabbit smiled. I live to serve Alice. What a relief. A burden has lifted off my shoulders now that this invitation is delivered. If it pleases you to attend, I hope you have an enjoyable time. The Duchess certainly knows how to throw parties, and the nobility of Wonderland how to party. I tucked the invitation away. The rabbit smiled, a distant look in her eyes. ... Is there anything else? Her attention returned to me. No, that is all. I won't bother you any further. Please excuse me, Alice, and have a nice day. Bowing her head a few times, she made her way away and soon was out of sight. And off she goes. The cat's eyes narrowed with a grin. We were talking about something too. That white rabbit, she only cares about the Mad Queen. Her grin became mischievous. I've got a little secret about the Red Queen, just a bit of gossip. Do you want to hear? Certainly. I was in a bit of a stump trying to find the rest of the Red Queen. The first two pieces came along quite easily, as if delivered on a silver platter, but now I had to find some more clues. I waited for the cat to speak again, glancing at her flickering tail. She gestured for me to come closer. Gestured, I don't know. Thank you.
Got you.
When I moved in, she flicked me sharply on the forehead, causing me to recoil in surprise and stumble back. I never said I would say I don't know. Try finding me later, Alice. Before I could respond to her provocation, she disappeared into thin air, leaving a grin floating before me for a short moment more. That is, if you can. With a flicker, the grin too vanished. ... What did the rabbit call her again, Alice? I ran my fingers through. Adios. Someone said adios.
Percy.
Percyism. Adios. What's up? I ran my...
They're saying bye.
They're saying bye?
Mm.
I ran my fingers through my bangs and sighed. Looking around, I was alone. My search again. Search for Chester, check out the party. Yeah, fine. I would check out the party, but I don't like parties. I returned to the path. I couldn't leave the cat's matter alone. Thinking of her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I returned to the endless tea party. I had a quick chat with the Hatter to find out, are you acquainted with the Cheshire Cat? The Hatter's eyes narrowed. Cheshire. The Hatter moved Dormouse as if she were upset. She's scary. The Hatter moved the March Hare as if he were exasperated. Always stays up in the trees. The Hatter smiled as she spoke. She's usually around the northern end of the forest. The cat always says she has business, so she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her. The Hatter grinned. Yes, we're acquaintances, but definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We're low on seats as is. And then she sneered. Next thing you know, you'll have to be chopped up to fit in a teapot. Ta-ta. The trio of one gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the Hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight, no cats nor others. After a while, I reached a place with two signs pointing opposite directions. One read cliff and the other not a cliff. I let out a chuckle that they were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past, bushes blocking beyond their arrows. Dingling, the ring of a small bell entered my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire Cat. I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves of the trees around me. I heard a rustling noise, but then I looked towards the sound. I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward and... exclamation mark. The world shifted. The air was pushed out of my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down on me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been a cracked egg on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. The blur of the Cheshire Cat filled my spinning field of view. She wrapped both hands around my neck, digging in with her sharp nails. Her left arm flickered in and out of existence as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure about my throat. Oh gosh. Her grip tightened, drawing blood. I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. Da 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 da. Why do I have to read all this?
I think you just poking your spit out.
I tried to pry her fingers off with my own. My twitching hands clawed at her constricting grip and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. I just barely forced her off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch a breath. She grabbed my collar, grip on the left, flickering in and out, and slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. What? I couldn't even ask why she was doing this as vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself to get to my feet, just roll away from her somehow. Cliff? Not a cliff. Oh gosh, I'm gonna do not a cliff. I tumbled through bushes, rolling in the direction the sign said was not a cliff. As I made a good distance from the cat, I felt the ground disappear underneath me. Whoosh, it was all air below me. In a desperate flail, I grabbed onto a rock on the cliffside with one hand. I should have expected this from Wonderland. My injured shoulder throbbed as I tried to use the arm's hand for a second point on the cliff. I found that I couldn't pull my weight with that side. My uninjured side barely clung on. The rock dug into my flesh and my fingers creaked. A trickle of blood startled started down my palm. The rock as well shuddered as a hairline fracture showed itself. I tried to find a foothold with my legs, but even the slightest swing could throw me downward to my demise, which, with the angle of the cliff, I had no way to try. I winced, still there. The Cheshire Cat looked down on me. Pacing back and forth, she pretending to contemplate what to do next, while her shoulders shook with mirth. I squeezed my eyes shut to try to block out my dizziness. Why are you doing this? I had a bit of a revelation that Wonderland was mad, that's all. You and I were all mad. We both seem to have forgotten something very important. Even now, I can't seem to remember what it is. It's just about a madness, Alice. I see. Sweat probably more than sweet. Sweat probably more blood than sweat made my grip on the rock slippery. Amusement at seeing me struggle showed on the cat's face as her grin grew and her tail of black flame roared. I don't suppose you'd help me. Depends on what you mean. She extended her right arm and grabbed my wrist. With a firm pull, she tore my hand off of my rock and held me up by the wrist. I saw that daytime sky. I dangled in mid-air, feeling her lift me upward, and I let go. Air whooshed past my ears. Long live the queen. I was fallen. Crack. Dead end.
Damn.
Death 3.
Shit.
Script scene, 29%. Well,
I guess Cliff.
yeah, I guess. Okay, well, I'm just
Shit.
gonna skip through all these. Da 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 da. Listen to the Hatter. Skip, skip, skip. Pet the bird, kill the bird. I'm killing the bird. Da, 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 da.
Okay, so that's how we kill the bird.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Grow. Da, 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 da. Hatter, White Queen. White Queen. Skip, skip, skip. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Search for Sire. Cliff. The signs around here, nonsense written on them many times. No cliff in sight. I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting, while hooking my foot on hers. Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise and made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light like a cat. I'm waiting for an exclamation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. The Cheshire Cat frowned. I hadn't realized you were here before, bleh. My cloak may have a hood, but you've seen my face many times already, Cheshire Cat. She scowled. Wonderland's twisted up in time. She jeered. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad, all mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? No, that's the question you have to ask. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I'm Alice, that is all. That was my sole truth. She returned to a frown deep in thought. But who in the world is Alice? An outsider, a temporary visitor? I've just about figured out the most important part. If you figured it out, I don't suppose you'd tell me. You are... She grimaced in pain. She pressed her hand against her head. Then she took on a jeer. Kahali or something. Somehow you're much too similar to the Mad Queen. Oh, about that Mad Queen. You've been looking for her, but let me tell you this. She's been dead for a while now, although I think you should already know. She scowled. I can't put it into words for some reason. Maybe it's just the way you look at the world, but you're definitely the same type of person. In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling? Some delusion that I might be the same as someone who I've never met? Or, as you say, someone who is long dead? She stared at me with determination. This world can't afford another Red Queen, not even the chance of one. She vanished, taking the chance in our conversation. Criminals needed to be locked up. I looked all around, hearing the faintest sound of her shackles telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence. So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die. Her voice danced through the air formlessly. You have no qualification to enact your form of justice, Cat. That really is just like her to say. She appeared behind me and attacked again. We fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. The cat favored her right arm, rather her left arm acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on it. Her handicap forced her to falter more than my now numb shoulder did me. She felt like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal, biting, clawing, and all the likes. She came at me with the intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. I punched her straight in the face, causing her to bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of red. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again and again. Doing this with my bare hands weren't exhilarating as much as it was just a matter of fact. I had decided that I preferred this nuisance out of my hair. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. The arm felt familiar, as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. That cat was also a thief. Ask for it, tear it off. Should I ask for it or tear it off?
Tear it off.
Okay.
Just rip that shit off.
I grabbed hold of the Cheshire Cat's right arm and pulled. The cat screamed, the arm creaked. Be quiet for a bit, won't you? As I pulled, I heard a myriad of tearing and ripping noises, sounds that human flesh should not make. She screamed, herself hoarse and shaking under me. Feeling her erratic grasp, I figured that she could barely breathe. Her eyes dilated, crying from the gurgling I heard from her throat. I guessed that she must have bitten fully through her tongue. Ugh. I dug my fingers.
Young.
No, Evie, no. I dug my fingers into the arm more harshly to wrench it off. Yeah. Slowly but steadily, I removed the arm from the cat through brute force with a final squelch. The arm popped off from where it had been attached. The cat also stopped making noises around that time. Blood splattered all over me, dirtying my clothes and the limb I sought to retrieve. A really really a little annoying. The red dripped all over the grass around us. I sat on her prone body for a moment to rest. Looking at my handiwork, I wondered if perhaps I had gone a little too far. However, it was better
No,
to
not
get
at all.
trouble out of the way. I wobbled to my feet. I kicked the body, ascertaining that she was unconscious. Holding the arm in one hand, I dragged the cat along the ground. I left 2 trails of red behind me, from one from the cat and one from the recently detached limb. In the direction
I
labeled
think
not a
Wyatt might be
cliff.
right about me.
Why?
He made the comment that I'm a bit of a sadist.
Oh?
Yeah, while I was still playing Skyrim. Remember that, Wyatt?
Yeah,
I think you might be right.
is that so?
Yeah. Because that was a little satisfying to me.
Yeah. Envy, you might be a bit of a sadist. No offense. This,
Just I should have.
why did it make me? I feel like I was grossed out hearing about it, but yeah.
I enjoyed it.
In the direction labeled not a cliff was a cliff. What a convenient garbage disposal spot. I held the cat's body as close to the cliff's edge as I could, placing the arm on the ground to free up my hands. I lifted her and flung her off the cliff. An issue was disposed
Bye,
of.
Bye, bitch.
Bye, bitch. Now there was no more Cheshire Cat. I picked up the severed arm. The limb appeared different now that it was detached from the cat. It more resembled its fellow limbs, sans a regal torn sleeve. The broken shackle about its wrist fell off without me having to do a thing. Alice, did you recognize this arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. A jolt of pain burst through my head. I did not know why. I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. I stumbled, clutching my head. The world warped and blurred around me. I felt dizzy looking at the disordered landscape, or perhaps my dizziness distorted the landscape into an undulating. How do you pronounce it again, Envy?
Undulating.
Undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. The raging headache pounded at my skull would not subside. Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh, the ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe falling. Alice was fallen. My world turned to darkness, and all I heard was laughter. Thump. Did I die? No, I didn't. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the
That is
sky.
beautiful.
It was a starry sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disoriented I was, I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed that I still had the limb I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to a sitting position and saw her. Hatter or the White Queen?
Go for the Hatter.
Go for Hatter?
Save before you do though.
Okay.
I need help. Can you beat the Shadow Blood Queen for me?
Shadow Blood Queen.
Queen's Blood. I've been trying it, and she
Looking
cheats.
around, I found that I was at the
I
Hatter's
haven't played
place.
much of the game though.
I started to talk only for my throat to feel like sandpaper.
Oh.
Each time
She
I
cheats
time I
though.
play
This
that
is
game?
my
unfair.
eyelids grew heavy again. A
I
chill
never
ran through my
stop.
whole body.
Huh?
Look it
Uncomfortable that
up.
all I could say I
You might have
felt.
to look it up.
I did, but I'm using the deck they recommended, but
Just use what you want to use.
yeah, but
Part of the cards,
she's
my
like,
guy.
Yeah.
she's impossible to beat. She
Part of the
literally
cards.
cheats.
You mean she's got cards stashed?
Although I had experienced quite
No,
a
but she
bit
takes control of the
since
board.
coming to Wonderland, I had
Oh.
not thought I would catch
Yeah.
a cold. Certainly that fight with the cat had battered me up. Don't speak, Alice, you're burning up. So no tea for you today. It must have still been tea time, for it was always tea time. However, today the Hatter decided to put the tea aside, even at tea time, for the sake of me. She brought up a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked.
No.
Coughing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that had spilled. If you drink too quickly, you'll drown.
What if you're the Red Queen?
You never know. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the cup firmly till she knew that I wouldn't drop it. Drink water slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off the stove. Seeing that I had the cup in my hand, she hopped off in the direction of the stove. I thought back to when we first met. At that time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer, so I hoped that she would bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited, setting it aside. Once I finished, she returned with a bowl of porridge in hand. Sitting down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I instinctively opened my mouth like a baby bird. I can eat myself.
Oh, that's sweet.
I would rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed me porridge spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put the bowl away and gave me another cup of water. While letting me sip the water, she wiped away the sweat on my forehead. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I've never quite had. My words drifted off into silence as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. ... Hatter the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter, and I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed a cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Then into the realm of hypnosis I fell. After a few days of good rest under the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. Thank you, Hatter. What for? Don't linger too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Alice? Haha, so I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. She just fucking sends me away. Okay. I was back
She's
on
like, die,
the
bitch.
forest path. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Onward, I continued with my search so that she could send me home. I took out the invitation the White Rabbit had delivered to me, running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint on the wax seal. Some sort of animal. I tore the invitation open. Inside, I found a card and read it to myself. Alice, the Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her hall. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. The Duchess estate, the manor. You are required to bring a companion. Flipping the card over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines on the map and somehow pinpointed where I was in relation to the manor. I held nothing to bring to a party, nor did I have a readily available guest. I pondered whether I should go or not, seeing as that I could put off indefinitely with the Red Queen's part still missing. Perhaps someone there would know. A duchess should have been close to the queen, for example. That at least the tutors. As for the +1, my mind wandered to a few human acquaintances in Wonderland. Hatter or the White Queen?
I'd go for White Queen.
Alright.
She seems much more of a, I don't know, calm.
Okay. So, White Queen. Got it. I invited the White Queen, feeling she would be most fitting a guest to a noble's ball. I found her in the garden. She gave me a pleasant smile. White Queen, won't you accompany me to a ball? She appeared contemplative. A small frown adorned. Yeah. A small frown adorned her features. I will attend if you would like me to. I'm not much for parties, but just this once with you would be alright. To whose ball and when? The Duchess Ball. The White Rabbit gave me an invitation to what she claimed to be an endless party. I dug out the invitation and let the White Queen see. The White Queen smiled. The Duchess Ball. Then we should be in no hurry. Alice, would you like to try on a dress? It seems fitting, for we are going to a ball, but you might not have one as you aren't from around these parts. She seemed excited. At my nod, she had a whole wardrobe of dresses and accessories brought out and let me try them on. Lace and frills, silk and cotton, ribbons of various colors, and glittering gems. What a variety. Not a single thing had been touched or worn before, as if unwanted gifts. They were pretty, but not quite her. The White Queen looked a bit shy, a bit amused. I might understand why children like to doll up pretty girls. I'm not particularly. Hee. We tried a number of different outfits. I changed into the next dress, a red dress, feeling the comfortable fabric on my skin. I twirled around to feel the dress. The White Queen appeared hesitant, sad even. The red suits you, Alice. It does, doesn't it? ... For a moment her gaze went far away. But perhaps not today. Must I wear a dress? If I did not plan to be here for long enough to deal with the consequences, even if I particularly offended anyone. My plan was and continued to be to gather the Red Queen to leave. Therefore, if it would realign her gaze, then I preferred not to wear a dress. No, you need not worry about a dress if you would prefer not to. The Duchess won't be bothered. She smiled. I did say that I could see the future, did I not? Let me reassure you of that, Alice. She seemed relieved that I chose not to wear this dress. The dress must have been tailored for someone special, as it didn't match the White Queen at all. I changed back into my own clothes, feeling my cloak snug around me. This suits me best. In exchange for that fun, will you allow me to do your makeup? I don't see why not. She sounds like Tiana. Tiana always asks to do my makeup. Fairy servants lugged over a makeup kit, bowing to me and her as they set it down. I looked at her face, the curve of her jawline, the shape of her lips. Seeing her up close, I felt a little flustered because she was so pretty. With the tools given, I traced over her features. Alice, was she not already perfect? What was there to even cover up and make more beautiful? Truly, this was my white bird, whose, not wanting to ruin her features, I drew very little on, only dusting a light layer of blush on her cheeks. My hand hesitated. The whole while she smiled. She shifted when the brush tickled her. She leaned in toward my touch, looking as if she would kiss me, and caused my heart to flutter and blood to rush to my head. Fiddling with the makeup tools, I retreated. That should be all. I didn't poke you, did I? I felt nothing at all, Alice. You are in fact a very gentle person. A fairy servant brought her a mirror called with a simple gesture from the White Queen. Looking upon my handiwork, I found that she looked no different from before. Pretty and white, still she seemed pleased. As I decided not to dress up, the White Queen chose to do the same. Shall we go? I extended a hand towards her. The White Queen looked sheepish. Certainly. She called a carriage, a pretty crystal thing, whose coachman sat invisibility with but a shadow. The horses, too, were nowhere to be seen like fairies. We entered the carriage and off it went. I looked outside the window, seeing familiar yet unfamiliar scenery, some places I had never passed by even when coming to her garden. Our ride stopped amongst a number of other carriages. I alighted helping her down and we walked up to the Duchess's manor. It resembled I'm gonna save here. Because you never know. It resembled a large white castle towering against the dayed sky with pointed roofing. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Halt, please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over and glancing at me and the White Queen before stiffening in surprise. Your Majesty, the White Queen. Making eyes towards another guard. The guard gestured and led us inward. A few steps through the entranceway. The guard's fellow quickly darted inside as if to report the appearance of a rare visitor. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Yes, I am afraid I cannot make an exception for anyone. Offer the Red Queen's arm. Offer my own arm. What arm should I offer?
Save and try your own arm.
I can't save at the moment. But I saved a while back.
I guess the Red Queen's arm.
An arm, a limb, certainly I had one I could obtain from the Mad Hatter. I glanced toward the White Queen, thinking of how I had never mentioned the Hatters and my agreement. That agreement of blasphemy and lèse majesté. For reasons unknown, I felt strongly that the White Queen knew more about the Red Queen's dismemberment than I did. Perhaps she did not lie about knowing the future. Alice, of course she did. Let's go ask the Hatter. The Hatter, the one who lives in the woods and cannot sing. Haha, are there many Hatters in Wonderland? Perhaps there were, just not many satisfactory enough. Without asking any further questions, she followed my lead to go find the Hatter. Arriving at the Hatter's place, I found the Hatter having her usual tea time chatting with the puppets on her hand. She spotted us sitting up straighter in her seat, seeming surprised at seeing the White Queen. A darkness stirred in her mismatched eyes as she saw my guest. The Hatter seemed to sneer. Your Majesty, the White Queen, no room. 3, 4, 5. 5's enough for all the people in this world. The White Queen appeared troubled as the Hatter continued to sneer. Don't be so rude, Her Majesty, the White Queen. You wouldn't want your hands to go flying again. I didn't bother to take a seat at this visit, knowing that if I were to lounge on my armchair, I would stay there with the Hatter for much too long. We aren't here for tea, Hatter. The White Queen smiled a little. The Hatter, too, gave me a friendly and pleasant expression as I spoke. A real shame, but rather an arm, preferably detached from anything else. Yes, the Hatter looked down at her own limbs. The White Queen looked hesitant. One of the persons would Cephas. We only need to borrow one for a bit. The White Queen gave the Hatter a shy smile. An arm would be appreciated, Hatter. The Hatter gave a wide grin. Is that so? Then she gave a cheeky wink. Your Majesty, you'd like to borrow a limb? I'm surprised. After all, you were the one who did that. Did you lose it? What I mean to ask is, did you lose your trash? The White Queen frowned at the Hatter's words. Her brows furrowed in anger. I have no idea what you're talking about. The Hatter grinned again. I forgot that it was supposed to be a secret. I suppose I shouldn't show my gratitude and instead reflect on my rudeness. My sincere apologies. The White Queen appeared troubled as the Hatter sneered. Sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to mention the choppity chop. Our heads haven't been the same since they fell off the first time. A bit of an open secret, don't you know? The White Queen looked disgusted. I ask you not to speak of that matter. I understand. Our lips are sealed, zipped tighter than tight. ... A sad expression adorned the White Queen's features. Regarding that arm, Hatter, she finally smiled a little when I spoke. The Hatter grinned. Of course, Alice. You were the one who found it. The Hatter hopped over to the dog cage and kicked it open, pulling an arm out like a bear fishing from a stream. She looked quite devilish. She held it far from her as it began to flail and chucked my way over the table. The White Queen looked troubled. The limb flew an uneven arc through the air, forcing me to dash toward the piece of meat. I just barely caught it in my arms, nearly stumbling into the White Queen who stood near me. Her arm. The White Queen's eyes bored into the severed arm with distorted intensity. There was a smile on her face. The Hatter grinned with her brows still knit in a devilish manner. Bring it back later, Alice. I will. The White Queen frowned. Saying goodbye to the Hatter, we returned to the Duchess's manor. The guard greeted us and we handed over the arm. We retrieved his gaze, lingered on the White Queen after asserting the validity of the arm as an entrance fee. Even he must have noticed that she seemed reluctant to part with the limb. The guard handed our entrance fee off to his servant, who put it into a sealed box and took it away for safekeeping nonetheless. Whew, fuck.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, a lot of,
Yeah.
holy shit, a lot of reading to do.
Not used to doing that much.
No. I mean, not all at, like, once. It's like, what the fuck? This game's
Hell, it's
interesting,
been
though.
2 hours and 13 minutes.
Been
Yeah.
streaming that long.
Yep. I've been streaming for
Wow.
2 hours and 13 minutes.
Crazy.
I could have done that myself. I don't think I'd have that in me.
You wouldn't.
I don't think I could.
That's fair.
Unless I'm really enjoying something.
So you're saying you're not really enjoying God of War?
I am, but I just don't feel like streaming for too long.
That's fair.
Plus, of course, I've played the game before, so it's kind of...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even though, for some reason, when I played it on PS4, it was 112 gigabytes, and now on PS5 it's only 85. It's like,
Gosh.
why?
The
Well,
guard
that's-
handed
that's-
our entrance fee off
weird.
handed our entrance fee off to a servant who put it in a sealed box and took it away for safekeeping
Tip number
nonetheless.
7,822.
Damn. Please
What?
enter, esteemed guests. We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. The floor was wide open and remarkably polished. Golden chandeliers hung above the light, reflecting against the floor. A few chairs sat between the large rounded windows. A painting sat on the farthest wall. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guests. A quartet performed in the front. Food sat at the tables to the sides of the room. All around were faceless people dressed up like clowns. The moment the White Queen stepped foot into the room, all heads turned toward her. A horde approached us, circling around the White Queen so that she could not easily escape. Yet they kept their distance as if gazing upon a rare zoo animal. Greetings to your majesty, the White Queen. Have you been well? We have nothing but gratitude for all of you have done for this kingdom in the face of tyranny. Her majesty was, oh no, was this still a difficult topic to speak of? You'll jinx it if you speak of the devil will appear. ... Your majesty, won't you come and visit the Marquisdom? Your white hair is as beautiful as snow today. No wonder you are so adored.
Marquidom?
Yeah, something like that. Your beauty was such that even she was so enamored by your presence. She was, we shouldn't speak of her. I wish I could touch your skin. You did as good as
That's a weird
you did us
request.
a good deed. A paragon of virtue. The heavens must sing your praises. You are truly the queen with the divine right to watch over Wonderland. It must weigh heavily on you to have had to take such drastic measures. But what are your plans now on the empty throne? The rabbit and animal still thinks that she can be found. What is this? This is what we get for letting vermin rise up the ranks, but no one else wanted to be in that position. You say that because they're
imagine someone asking,
incompetent.
"Can I touch you?"
Yeah, that would just be weird. I would say fuck off.
I would just stare like, no.
Truly,
Go
this
fuck
kingdom might
yourself.
fall into disarray, your majesty. Do you have any intentions for who should be delegated to rebuild Wonderland? You've worked so hard, so why not take a good rest and let others do the dirty work? My husband has always... Your husband isn't exactly here right now. Wasn't he banned for making a ruckus? Your majesty, please don't take
Finally.
offense, but I know a wonderful
You beat her?
place. Brilliant
Yeah.
volcanic springs to recuperate
Yeah, you
from
can do it.
being locked away. Also, congrats for making it, finally.
Fucking knew you could do it.
Yeah,
You just had to keep
if you were
At it.
considered my brother.
Yeah.
The White Queen appeared quite bored. White Queen, my hand brushing against hers. I was sick of hearing all the drivel leaking from the faceless crowd's mouths like half-chewed slop. She nodded. She took on a professional expression. We must go see the Duchess now to talk about matters of the Red Queen. Upon mention of the Red Queen from the White Queen's mouth, the pigs surrounding the White Queen collectively gasped and took a few steps back. Could it be? She nodded ambiguously, causing them to scatter with one excuse or another. There was a smile on her face. Soon a servant approached, telling us that the Duchess was ready to meet us in the parlor, and that we could head over as soon as we wanted. Her smile turned trouble. I spoke too soon. Was that simply a bluff to make them back away? Yes. It may be just as well that we meet with the Duchess, because you are searching for the Red Queen to find your way home. Shall
I
we,
can't help
Alice?
but think. I can't help but think. I
Mhm.
noticed the ribbon around the White Queen's neck, right?
Yeah.
What if that's the Red Queen's head that she's using?
Maybe.
Because that could hide a scar.
That is true.
That reminds me of like a I forget what cartoon it is, but it reminds me of a cartoon when somebody took off the rib and the head fell off.
Yeah. I followed the White Queen through the manor hallways, glancing left and right at familiar, unfamiliar.
There was a story that I remember that regarded that.
Yeah, I know there was like a cartoon one time or something where the ribbon basically kept the head attached
Damn.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's fucking.
The long hallways were just as regal as the ballroom. Red carpets rolled out along their lengths. Wow. This is as much reading as I've done, like, in a hot minute. Alice, the Duchess must have redecorated. What unspoken good deed had you done that the swine, I meant those nobility, would not leave you alone, White Queen? She made a sad smile. Absolutely nothing. She stopped. I stopped. The Duchess welcomes you. The guard before a room bowed and opened the door, letting us into the Duchess' parlor. It was quite open, with 2 brown sofas on either end of a coffee table for guests. Tasteful and subtle art pieces hung on the walls, one of an angel on the one wall and another of a devil on the opposite. Lit by the natural lighting streaming in from the windows was a desk that sat before the guest sitting area. Inside sat a featherless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything, not disfigurement nor beauty. I perceived her. She was the Duchess. Welcome, Your Majesty, the White Queen, and what name did you go by now? Yes, Alice. The Duchess looked at the White Queen before glancing towards me, returning a sense of pity towards us. Your heart is still entangled. The White Queen made a troubled face. ... You didn't come to me for that advice, beloved White Queen. I believe you wanted to speak to me about our dearest Majesty, the missing Red Queen. Yes, it's Alice's matter. We told the Duchess about my circumstances. I fell into this world unknown and was seeking out the Red Queen in order to find a way home. We left out the part where had to take a sip of the drink I'm drinking because my throat is getting dry. Just
So what are you
this.
drinking?
Twisted tea.
Nice.
Alcohol.
I haven't drank in a couple of years now.
Damn. Congrats. We left the part out where the Red Queen was dismembered, but the Duchess already knew. You are searching for the Red Queen, but the Red Queen has been dismembered. To even request aid from her, you must assemble all of her pieces. The
Vincent sounds familiar.
As
Can't
the
put my
Duchess
tongue on it.
spoke about the Red Queen, the White Queen had a distant gaze. As it so happens, I have her left leg in my possession. What? The White Queen's lids lifted in surprise. She smiled diplomatically. In that case, would you give it to us? I will be giving it to a pair of guests at today's balls. It would be unfair for me to hand it off to you when another pair would have had to show their prowess to earn the limb. The White Queen frowned. I will offer something in exchange. You've done nothing to offer, nor you have a true desire to meet our dearest Majesty in this form or another. Of course, these are only my own thoughts. Forgive me for assuming, but I cannot give you the limb like this. Rather than letting her offer something in exchange, would it not be better for me to do so as the person searching? What could convince you to give up the limb, Duchess? I will hold a little game today, and if you win, then the limb will be yours. A game? I'm gonna save. A
Good idea.
game? Yes, a game. Our dearest Majesty loved her games, even if they were too much too often cruel. Cruel games with no winner, not even herself. The White Queen looked angry. I'm sure that Her Majesty of the White Queen remembers. The White Queen's expression quickly shifted to an upset one. Will you not do me a favor, Duchess? No, not even for you, Her Majesty's most beloved. Question mark? The White Queen looked away. Again, she was smiling. Finding a little more we could say to convince her, the Duchess, we left the Duchess's parlor, seen off to the door by her. We returned to the ballroom to wait. The quartet continued playing. The previous crowd saw the troubled look on the White Queen's face and decided not to approach, only watching her from afar. Dancing pairs filled the room. The White Queen eyed me as if she wanted to request something. When I turned to question her, she pretended to look at the refreshments. Do you like dancing? She looked hesitant, just a normal amount. You needn't feel restricted by me. I'll be fine by myself if you would prefer to have a dance or a few, now that you're here. She smiled. Alice, what is it? May I invite you to dance? I took her hand and we went out. We went towards the dance floor. The next song started. Tap, tap, step, step. A practice sequence of footwork, moving across the room at the rhythm of the music. We danced while gazing into each other's eyes. Without even saying what we should dance, we just danced. I took Alice's part. She took the White Queen's part. There was nothing more. Feeling ambitious, I twirled her around, chuckling as she grew a little flustered when I caught her. I saw a strange expression, as if she had expected something different, but the smile that floated to her eyes reassured me that I hadn't done wrong. The White Queen was always looking somewhere else, perhaps to the future, perhaps to the past, perhaps to a person who wasn't there, even though we were here right now. This was our dance alone. Thank you. No, I enjoyed that. Can we dance together again one day? Perhaps one day we should. The music stopped along with the dancing. It was at this time the Duchess made her appearance. Behind her was a servant carrying the severed leg under a red cloth. Tonight we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as all the guests guessed at what the White Queen and I had already learned. We are holding a chess tournament, the usual game that ends when the king has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth. All around the guests let out a collective gasp. What, you may ask, why it could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. May the best strategist win. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With a match-up list created, the tournament started. Here was an exercise left to the reader. If giving a game and a player terribly good at the game, what would happen? Naturally, that player wouldn't win and win again. To my surprise for this game, that was chess. The player who was terribly good was the White Queen, even with the handicap of Alice as a teammate. She was smiling all the while. We made our ways to the finals, where we met with the last opponent not at a table, but in a cleared out space in a ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. The White Queen made a troubled expression. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up 1 1/3 soldiers dressed up in black like chess pieces. The White Queen looked disgusted. Human chess, Duchess? Our dearest Majesty enjoyed watching games like this. One of you have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. Please take your time to decide. Those blades that the Duchess's black pieces wield looked heavy and sharp, dangerous. The White Queen looked troubled. She looked at me and gave me a worried smile. Alice, let me. You could get hurt, White Queen. She frowned at my words. I would say the same to you, but at the very least the Duchess would hesitate to hurt me, for I am the White Queen. However, you are Alice, I know. In that case, I can't just let you take that risk. Funny, the idea of seeing you hurt pains my heart. She made a sad smile. Aw, how cute. We stood at a standstill for so long that the Duchess had a set of white pieces shuffle in and take their spots on the board. One of us had to be the human chess piece. White Queen or Alice? I'm scared.
Well,
I want to say White Queen.
I imagine that if you put Alice in there, she's gonna die.
Yeah. So I want to say the White Queen. Do you trust me? She made a sad
Yeah.
smile. I do. Choosing to do this means you put your safety into my hands, White Queen. Are you certain that you trust me? Then she gave me a confident smile. Yes, I trust you, Alice. Her eyes met mine, filling me with the discomfort as although she trusted me, did not trust me. Given the responsibility for another person, I knew not if I could fulfill her expectations. I directed her to the king to be protected. The white piece already on the board handled over a fake white crown and a sword to the White Queen, taking his sleeve so she could walk into the position. I started with the first move. Playing clash, my white pieces fell, but so did the Duchess's black pieces. For each of hers I took down, she captured one of mine, setting us evenly on our score. Each time I looked at the game, I asserted that the White Queen was out of harm's way. If she were to be taken down, the game would end. If she were to be taken down, I would have failed her trust. Alice, you were soft-hearted today. I placed my hand to my chin, pondering on what my next move should be. Perhaps, too, giving her hints would be cheating. Your Majesty, the White Queen, at this moment you are playing a piece on the board and therefore may not speak. That's a shame. You're a very amusing person, Alice. Still, I feel sorry for letting her enter your hands. The Duchess saw something that I did not see. I will take that as a compliment, Duchess. Our game continued till neither had many pieces left on the board. Surveying the results of my formalic strategies, I found the light of victory. I nodded towards the White Queen, who had seen the same thing. Checkmate, Duchess. My White Queen cut down the Black King. The Duchess blah blah clapped her hands. The White Queen was smiling. Congratulations, this is my loss. Even facing my challenge fair and square, you have ultimately tamed the Red Queen's limb. I wish you the best of luck gathering her parts, for better or for worse. I am in no position to stop you, not when your Majesty the White Queen approves. The White Queen made a troubled smile. If our dearest Majesty is to return, then we must accept that and end the party. The White Queen's smile disappeared. Would you like to take your prize now? Yes. The White Queen made a distant, happy expression. The Duchess gestured over the serpent with the prize and handed the lake to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. And your Majesty the White Queen, do come visit whenever you would like to talk with me again. The Duchess departed with her servant, following after her. Just as quickly as she left, the chess setups were cleared away. I looked toward the White Queen, touching her hand to gain her attention. Her hand felt cold. She seemed surprised at my touch. Do you want to stay for longer? The White Queen shook her head. She smiled. I've had enough excitement for the day. Thank you for inviting me, Alice. Although that last game of chess was nerve-wracking, I enjoyed spending the day with you. No, thank you for coming with me. I feel the same. Her smile became sad. We made our way to a hall. We found the servant to leave, and and were redirected outward. We retrieved the sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. I will leave you with the limb. Do you want to meet with the Red Queen again? She made a sheepish, avoidant smile. That's a difficult question, Alice. I see. I already understood that she had a complicated relationship with the Red Queen, but I wanted her to look at me instead. Alice was right in front of her. No, at the very least I wanted her to smile without looking at something so far away, because surely the person she was looking toward was the Red Queen, who had already been dismembered. We parted ways. Taking a wrong turn, I exited to a garden, and at the far end of the garden was an exit. It was an elegant garden with plenty of flowers and triangular hedges. In the center was a fountain. I turned to ask the White Queen to find that she had already gone. This must have been the Duchess's garden, seeing as I had just come from her manor. I strolled to the garden, appreciating the flowers and greenery, yet couldn't help but compare it to the White Queen's garden. Perhaps I should go visit the White Queen again. Without much further ado, I made my way through the garden exit. I was back on the forest path, not taking even 5 steps out. I stumbled. A sudden vertigo struck me. I must have had a long day, I reasoned as I held a hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up pit of mud. I must have forgotten something very important. I leaned back against a tree to take a break, looking upward, eyelids flickering. I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. The sun was beginning to set. Orange hues beginning to enter the picture. My free hand popped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. Hey, back at the Mad Hatter. At some point, I made my way to the Mad Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limb I had just obtained. At least from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have been only recently that I had taken this limb from its past owner. I didn't know. The Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dog cage with all the others. She grinned. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. I've gathered all of them! Finally. Oh, so have I. Aha, you look terrible right now, Alice. Her eyes narrowed. Like us. I'm tired. The Hatter smiled. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere, not unless tea time grows back its severed head and walks away. Don't you think? We could always talk a little later. Thank you. I slumped back into my armchair, sinking into the oddly scented cushions. She sneered. Good night, Alice. This may be the last. I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterward. After the raging white noise of my headache, my vision blurred, eyes becoming watery, eyelids heavy, I fell asleep. This may be the last. Then I was dreaming, falling. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I dreamt of a throne, a dark and terrible throne, so horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne, and the eye on the throne was arrogant and happy to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. A beautiful person. Yes, that person she loved was a beautiful person, so fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly tear off that person's wings. But her love was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, you were exactly this person. No, I wasn't, was I? As I opened my mouth to speak, blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk. I could not taste. Even though red dripped down my chin, I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out. Blood choked me. Gasping in nothing but liquid, I grasped at my throat. Alice. I was drowning in this dream. You were never happy. Never. When I awoke, I forgot all that I dreamt of. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disoriented, I nearly rolled off my armchair in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, rubbing the bridge of my nose. I blinked. I blinked again, chasing away a haze. I felt if I had forgotten something very important. In the meanwhile, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake, much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. Yeah. Look, I'm opening my other drink because my throat is dry from all this reading.
Well, there are 35,000 words that you got to read through.
Yep.
Did you look it up?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to get certain endings now.
Oh, you know how to get certain endings?
Yeah.
I'm curious on what ending I'll get for this one. How many endings are there?
There are 3 endings. You can get the White Queen ending, the Alice ending, or the Red Queen ending.
I'm curious about what ending I'll get. It was a cake with cream and fruits, 2 layered even with flowers and pictures, carved up with the food ingredients. I could only call it a pretty cake. She grinned, cheekily winking. Just in time for tea, Alice. As I got up from my armchair, the Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. She started at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. The Hatter made a devilish wide grin. Flicked the flame, glowed on the head of the match just for a few seconds. After settling the candles, she finally clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. Happy unbirthday to you. Happy unbirthday to you. Happy unbirthday. Dear Alice, a terribly offbeat, off-balance song she sang, and her voice warped as she said my name today. Certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. She sneered, happy unbirthday to you. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song with a small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. What's this for, Hatter? Certainly today was not my birthday. Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You get a special prize for bringing me all 4 limbs. But we already know what the surprise is. Since it's not your birthday, it must be your unbirthday. All 364 days of the year. Picking up a knife, she cut out a slice of cake and slid it over to me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon she poured me a cup of tea. That too came rushing over. I noticed a hammer on the table, right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The common scent of tea wafted to my nose and mixed with sweet milky cream. The celebratory cake sliced looked so charming, I almost felt it ashamed to eat. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. This is my favorite. After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate, the Hatter placed a box before me. She was still sneering. Open your present, Alice. Chop it open. Smash it open. Any way you'd like to. I surveyed the box, an odd and plain box just big enough to store an animal from inside. I could not tell what might lie inside. I cracked open a small gap, afraid to disturb what could be hidden inside. Shadows blocked my vision. I saw nothing, but I heard a low gurgling, drowning sound, a strange and strangled voice, one that sent a chill rolling up my neck. Throbbing headache hit me again. In one go, I flung the lid off. And it's a head. ... Inside was a head, a bloodied head. A head, a woman's head, a girl's head, a head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face, a much too Aquarian face, I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, even as the world seemed to shift around me. Her matted hair was blonde, her bloody skin was pale, but her unfocused eyes were not blue. Rather, they were red. Alice, you know who that face belonged to. Alice, whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet, to back away only to fall back onto the armchair from my loss of equilibrium.
When you get the chance,
Yeah?
here's your next two answers. Where is the tongue? And I am the Red Queen.
Oh, okay. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine, almost. I clutched my neck and touched my face to make sure that I was still there. This was the Red Queen. This was Alice. This was a severed head Alice. What the frick? Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from this so-called prize that the Hatter had given to me. Blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. How terrible. I reached a trembling hand to touch it, but it wasn't my place to try to close her eyes or put her to peace. The head was still moving, twisting with a squelching squish. Its wet, ragged sounds of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I jerked my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away. Now, aren't you glad you needn't find Her Majesty's head? As if laughing at me, as if she didn't truly mean that, with an odd tilt of her voice as she spoke of the Red Queen, the Hatter confirmed the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flinging the dog cage open, and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, they began to flail and grab at the Hatter. This time she was prepared and grabbed her hammer. Hatter, with a pair of loud bangs, she hammered nails through the corpse's hands into the Red Queen's chair. Red dripped to the ground. The hands twitched, the body
Writhed.
A ghostly pain ran up my arms as stomach churned. I felt dizzy. Mad Hatter, what? Hatter? I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing through my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice, that was why you were worthless. Ask something again. I touched my face to see if my lips had curled up without me thinking to. Didn't you want to leave this place? Aha, now you've found the Red Queen. If you have something you'd like to talk with her about, I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over chair, scraping on the ground with a hideous squeal, and stopped only when I sat face to face with the headless, shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it onto the body. The skin and meat deformed, contorting till the pieces of the neck meet exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together with something unnatural crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse as her throat connected. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. ... I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized that I haven't asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon an answer the same way. I had found all the limbs. This was the Red Queen. Alice, this was me. The requests I had been pondering on, the wishes to go back home, the want to ask her for help, they all flew out of my mind. Because this wasn't right, the face I was looking at, battered and bloodied as it appeared, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words, yet making no sound, Besides the hollow whistle of a crushed throat, the Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Cut out Alice's tongue. Where is the tongue?
Where is the tongue?
What happens if I cut out Alice's tongue?
Well, if you do that, you get the Alice ending.
Mm.
And then, yeah, that's a death right there, too.
Yeah, at least one. And then I'm guessing if I pick Where is the Tongue, that's the Red Queen's ending?
Yeah. You're going towards the Red Queen ending. Everything you've done already has already put you on that path.
Okay.
Because you killed the bird, you killed the Cheshire Cat. Might as well complete the trilogy, right?
Cut out Alex's tongue, okay. Where is the tongue? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbling with a pulsing pressure in the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Hatter, where is the Red Queen's tongue? I didn't want to hear her voice, so I tore it out and fed it to the dogs. The Red Queen wasn't complete without a tongue, although she squirmed in the chair, causing the nails to creak. It seemed like she didn't truly have her soul. Alice, you were so close. The corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. That should mean I needn't bother searching for them. What were your intentions? But hold up. If you were doing the Red Queen's ending all along, but yet you get Alice's ending too, wouldn't that mean you're doing the right thing to get Alice's ending?
Well, the best ending is the White Queen ending, where you have to be good all the time.
Oh, I want the White Queen's ending at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get it. You just gotta speed through that shit and hit the right answers.
Exactly. All the good answers.
Which,
and then the
as
one
it
after
stands,
that.
as it stands, you are being as cruel as possible.
Yeah, let the White Queen go for the chest. But yeah, then I'll have to go all through this shit again and fucking get Alice's ending.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Which you have to pet the bird.
Why do I have to pet the bird?
Though. For both Alice's ending and White Queen's ending, you have to pet the bird.
Oh, okay. Nah,
You've already
fuck that
screwed
bird.
yourself out of those endings by killing the bird.
Okay, fine, I'll be good to the bird. That should mean
She likes killing everything too.
Yep.
That's fun.
That should mean I needn't bother searching for them. What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face and of the various gossips I overheard on the Reeler. Alice. Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. She was sneering. What do you think? ... Yeah, let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was Your Majesty now. As the Hatter spoke, she appeared frustrated, angry. A long time ago in the corner of Wonderland, there lived a group of 3 friends, a mouse, a hare, and a hatter. I saw this on anime stream, so I kind of know what happens. We lived far away from bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats and they did mouse and hare things. Once we had been dragged to perform like clowns for visitors to this kingdom, but only that one, for Her Majesty hadn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran the court of law, a strict queen. Some called her a mad queen, some whispered a tyrant. Most could not even dare to say. I think the story should be predictable, don't you? We were called into court one day. The reason, maybe only to be judged. She proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. I, for no reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing anything. Thrown into prison and starved, only just that match. only just that much. When I came out, the streets were filled with newly spilled blood, and two familiar heads rolled my way. Crows feasted on a carrion, only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's cards. Do I need to explain further? Perhaps you really are blind and deaf. Aha. Dormouse and March Hare are dead. Damn. For what? For the sole crime of offending our world's triumph? And so Hatter has been all along for a long, long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen. The Hatter's smile disappeared. She looked disappointed. But she went and upped and died. Who let her get away like that so easily? She sneered again. You who are the same entity was the Red Queen. Entity. You are the same entity as the Red Queen. I can't let you go. Don't you understand? She glared at me. I see. For the sake of my revenge, you have to die, Alice. She spun the hammer in her hands, her face devoid of mirth, as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with her mismatched pair. This is my justice, Alice. Goodbye, Alice. Goodbye. She raised that hammer in her hand above my head. Crack. Then I was falling. I was falling down the rabbit hole with no start nor end. I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if back in time I experienced the pain of having my head caved in with a hammer. I was going mad. A wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter rolled down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland, not quite right, one where the hourglass of time had reversed. Looking upward, I found a sky disordered, staring with darkness, amplified my phantom headache that throbbed despite losing its cause. I placed a hand to my head, feeling a smooth skin where the hammer had struck. I was in the forest, like the first time that... What should have been the first time? The first time I met was the white rabbit, like Wonderland. Today she seemed different, crueler. An unrestrained black dance in the back of her eyes. There was a wide smile on her face. She looked awestruck. Your Majesty. The rabbit greeted me as if I were the Red Queen. No, perhaps I was Alice. Perhaps you were. Not bothering to acknowledge her, I let her continue speaking, saying that she had to say what she had to say to the Red Queen in that obscurious tone of voice.
I've never heard of that word.
Me neither. Did you wish to visit Her Majesty the White Queen today? Yes. I gestured for her to lead the way. Following only a path after the rabbit, I walked down an unfamiliar path. She had that same strange, awestruck expression. Wonderland was quiet, much quieter than I was accustomed to. Even the grass, wilting away from the presence, not to speak of the animals. The rabbit grinned devilishly. A report on Her Majesty the White Queen's affairs. As punishment for her previous transgressions, we have been regulating her sleep to 1-hour intervals as ordered. She seemed pleased with herself. Then the rabbit appeared frustrated. She has been quieter as of late. I hope that she will learn the errors of her ways for disrespecting your Majesty. Additionally, as per your orders, we have put her on a dietary restriction to regulate her weight. She sneered. We found that some chefs have been sneaking her extra food. The chefs responsible have been sent to do hard labor. Is that so? The rabbit talked about the unusual things, walking at a tall tree and and a large birdcage, a location I recognized from when I had obtained the Red Queen's right leg once upon a time. The rabbit appears hesitant. Your Majesty's mood has been strange today. Could it be? Are you questioning me, Rabbit? She glanced away, frightened. My sincerest apologies, Your Majesty. Leave. Bowing profusely, the rabbit backed away and scampered off. Oh, there's White Queen. I approached the birdcage, finding a pretty white bird locked within. No, I found the White Queen locked within the birdcage, much too cold. Alice, how would you catch her if you let her go free? She looked skinny, desperate, as if she had lost all hope, just as a flower would wither once picked. A bird too would if locked away from its sky. The White Queen was a human, not a bird. She was a person, not an animal. I knew that, Alice. I also knew that. I grasped a metal ball of her queen. White Queen, blah, blah, blah. I have nothing to say to you, White Queen. Her eyes betrayed an expression that could not be called hate. A complicated expression, a strange expression, one all too familiar. You won't even bother to treat me softly today, after everything you had done to me? Rather than the Red Queen, I am Alice. I doubted myself, remembering the Hatter's expression. What?
Choppity chop.
Yeah. For a moment. You said you could see the future, White Queen. Haha. I suppose that must have been a joke. I expected if you've yet to know who I am. We meet in another wonderland. I may have fallen in love, and maybe my affections were one-sided. In a terribly beautiful garden, I was lost chasing after a rabbit in confusion. After falling down a rabbit hole into another world, I told the White Queen about my adventures in Wonderland. I told her about a strange hatter with mismatched eyes, a cat whose dark tail flickered like flames, and the whimsy of living limbs. I told her about the brilliant night sky, and even every moment we spent together, too few, yet still overwhelmingly precious. Then I came here and met the White Rabbit, who led me to you. How fantastical that would be. I felt the same way speaking about the quest that I had, that dull Alice had found myself embarking on upon, falling through an endless void. Only a miracle would have brought me here to meet her and all the others in Wonderland. This is making me want to watch Alice in Wonderland now on Disney Plus.
It makes me want to play it.
But tell me, you who share her face but are not her name, why should I believe you? Why should I think that you are not but the Red Queen, mad again with some shame? You are. She is the one who knows me best in this world. We were born together, fated to die together, as if death would reach us at all. Bound by marriage from our conception, did you not say? She said the Red Queen said. So it should be that you finally lost it. Her pale eyes locked onto my body. The Red Queen's body, as if viewing someone unfamiliar. Or am I the one who has gone mad? You claim to be from the future. Then should I be from the past? The Red Queen is dead in my time. Do you understand what those words mean? Only a pinch of blasphemy. Blah. My words.
Blasphemy.
Yeah. Only a pinch. But these memories, these happenings that must have happened in the future, they're quite important to me. Meeting you was important to me. Important? You also like to say sweet words in the past. Should I say that she also liked to say sweet words in the past? I also understand now the Red Queen will no longer love me, so she gives me a replacement till she tires of playing this act. Tell me, what type of tea do you prefer? I blinked in surprise. At the sudden change of conversation topics, black tea. Do you still like white tea now? The White Queen looked at me, at Alice, for only a second.
What's white tea?
I don't even know.
Me either.
A strange tone of voice escaped through her lips, as if she came to a realization. She sounded soft and tired. Tell me again about the future. We'll meet again. I'll free you from this cage. You'll be free, beautifully, and my voice trickled off into silence. I had no happy ending to tell her of us, none of Alice and the White Queen. What mattered to the White Queen was the Red Queen. She'll be long gone. Why? No, don't answer. She... ... I believe you. Something beyond logic tells me that I should believe you. Can you make the me of the future happy? I wonder. After all, my White Queen had always been looking for her far away. No, you wanted to leave after all. You gave me a wonderful story, but tell me a better one next time, please. Remembering the key I obtained in a previous Wonderland, I checked my pocket and pulled out that very key. Take this. Holding it in a closed fist, I passed the key to the White Queen before through the cage bars. Exclamation mark. She took the key with trembling hands, gripping it tightly as if the metal would disappear. Knowing that having the key was a risk, she hid the key in her dress. Perhaps she would use it to escape from the Red Queen. What?
Choppity
Your
chop.
Majesty, urgent news. There has been an incident in court with the cards. The rabbit's sudden reappearance forced our conversation to a halt. She had a stressed expression. The Red Queen will kill them all. Don't go. The White Queen gestured me, telling me to lean in closer to her. She moved up to the bars in the cage as close to me as she could come. Show me that I can believe in you, and I will find you. Until later, Alice. Then she gave me a peck on the cheek. And, falling, I was falling once more. I fell down and down through a sparkling, shining darkness, too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I recognize this darkness now. I wanted to be chasing after someone, after something. Falling, I fell until I landed, and I saw the night sky above me. Choppity chop chop. Before me, laid out, was a scene between the Red Queen and the White Queen. I was like a spirit invisible to all who were present. The Red Queen was on the ground before the White Queen, a sword in the White Queen's hand. The blade glittered on the moonlight, betraying its sharpened edge. Behind the White Queen stood a group of denizens of Wonderland. They were in a clearing in the middle of the dark forest. The Red Queen wore regal red clothing with black and gold accents, her long blonde hair tied with a red ribbon. That high-class look did not match her pathetic position on the grass. There was nothing in the White Queen's expression as she glared down at the Red Queen. Off with their heads for the crime of treason. The Red Queen's shoulders shook once in a surprise that nothing happened. Not a single head went flying with mysterious force. Ha! They were my citizens now. Red Queen, you may not touch them. Your right only extends to those you have subjugated. Not mine. You were once sole ruler of Wonderland, but now you have lost. Aha! I united this dirty, broken world and tried to make everything right. Protect the people, uphold the law, bring order to Wonderland, and find its peace. In which way was I wrong? Red must spill for peace, but it seems some people prefer freedom over all else. You were born just as space and time were created at the genesis of this world. We were the only two existences of this disordered wonderland. Therefore, given much power, we were to be rulers of Wonderland with divine right. You you were the one who gave it away first because you were weak, so I took all of the responsibility onto myself because I loved you. Were you not happy within my cage, protected from the outside world? We are the only two of our kind in this world. If you did not care for this place, then I let you live a beautiful life within a cage. Let you stay beautiful, White. I loved you dearly, White Queen, but you were the same as everyone else. Traitor. I'm almost sad, no heartbroken. Haha, you were... But what choice do I have now, White Queen? You'll cut me down now, won't you? Or will you continue to be a coward? Show me your conviction to betray me. There can only be one victor if we are to be pitted against each other. I couldn't see the Red Queen's expression. I loved you. I betrayed you. You were the one who betrayed me first. The White Queen raised her sword and cut. A limb. Sharp pain shot up my arm, even though I was not the one who was cut. There was a rough tear and plenty of blood at the stump where the limb once was, the blood soaking into the Red Queen's dress. Blood too soaked the grass beneath her, dyeing the green red like her. Who betrayed who first? You who are in charge of time. A second limb. I squirmed as I tried to grab at the wound that did not exist. With an arm that my brain screamed was no longer attached. It hurt, but no red came out of me. Should know better than me. A third limb. A final limb. Blood splattered over the White Queen's dress, staining her red as the Red Queen's body shook. In agony, I gasped. My vision shook, tilting as I lost
Equilibrium.
I'm not even gonna say it.
Equilibrium.
And filling with tears, I collapsed to the ground and writhed, even though my limbs were still intact. I didn't even know what to clutch with. You're also a sadist, aren't you? Hey, Envy, you know how we brought up the fact that you're a sadist, right?
Yep. And I sure as shit am.
They said, well, in this sentence, they bring up the word sadist, so...
I guess I successfully romanced Aoife, yay.
Fuck yeah.
I'm in love with the White Queen. Kai, you're also a sadist, aren't you? I'm just angry. Finally went off her head. Once, twice, thrice, the White Queen hacked at the Red Queen's neck as if taking out her frustration on a neck already severed. My consciousness snapped. My vision blacked out. Yep, choppity chop.
Choppity chop.
The sound of cheering brought me back to this Wonderland's reality. The once quiet crowd began to celebrate at the dismembered Red Queen. We're free. The Tyrant is dead. Your Majesty, the White Queen, won't you be the new ruler of Wonderland? No. Her voice was quiet and fragile. I would appreciate if you would all keep news of this murder quiet. She did not turn around, not wanting to show the difficult expression that found its way onto her face. Ignoring the joyous clamoring of her people, the White Queen looked down at the Red Queen's corpse. So the White Queen was the one who dismembered the Red Queen. I choked out a pained laugh at the revelation, grabbing at my neck to ascertain that I had my head. I was dying. Yeah, I wasn't dying. I was still intact. The one who had been dismembered was the Red Queen. However, we were nearly one and the same. Alice. The White Queen's whisper broke me out of her stupor, her gaze landing directly on me to the point that our eyes met and she would not look away. She walked forward 2 steps, both toward the Red Queen's corpse and towards me. Alice, reaching out a hand, she tugged at my ephemeral form. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, I don't fucking know either.
Then I was falling. Falling. I was falling again. The raging phantom pain that sent me nearly catatonic faded with a chilly faded with a chilly sensation reminiscent of the White Queen. In this deep rabbit hole where time was but an illusion, I fell and healed. I was Alice. I was the Red Queen. We were one and the same, but divergent. The voice within my heart quieted till she no longer spoke. I still held that one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Even now, that wasn't wrong. But I was also the lonesome Red Queen. What could have been for her, she who had been killed at the end. What madness. We were both our own madness, but I wanted not to be my own tragedy. Yeah. I fell forward into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and found that the blades were soft, gentle even above me. The sky was devoid of stars. No, it was still daytime, so I should have been instead said that the sky was blue, terribly blue. I forced myself up to my feet, surveying a wonderland that I learned to know. This was no longer the Red Queen's wonderland, yet it was not the White Queen's either. Thinking about the White Queen, I wanted to talk with her. No, Alice, you've got a matter to finish first. My mind drifted to a pair of mismatched eyes. How long is this fucking thing? Like, fuck, haven't we made the ending yet?
We gotta be close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 3 hours, almost 3.5 hours. This shit is
I saw
long.
out the Hatter. Yeah, it is long.
Yeah, don't forget you did a 45-minute stream before.
Yeah, because I was not talking. Ugh.
Oh, you were talking, but you couldn't be heard.
Yeah. I saw out the Hatter come into the Hatter's place that had always been tea time, regardless of morning, noon, or light. Yeah. Looking left, right, up, down, I could not find the Hatter anywhere in sight. What the fuck is the Hatter? The table of tea, things stood untouched. On the ground was a bloodied hammer. When I went around to my armchair, it still held its usual odd smell. The Red Queen's corpse was nowhere to be seen, but that mattered not. The only thing truly missing was the Hatter. I understood. In my heart, I understood that there was no more Hatter in Wonderland, for the Hatter had completed her revenge. Her one and only final task. Checking the table, I saw the familiar pair of puppets, the March Hare and the Dormouse. I picked them up for just a moment, looking at their carefully stitched parts that desperately tried to hide that they were but cloth. Then I put them down gently. I'm sorry, Hatter. I left the Hatter's place, knowing that I would no longer find her here in Wonderland. Lonely, I felt lonely. I wandered about and inadvertently walked my way to the White Queen's garden. I saw the White Queen, who appeared the same as usual. She had that somber smile on her face.
No wonder she had that bandage on her hand.
Yeah, exactly. in a chair across from her sat the Red Queen's corpse. The Red Queen did not fit this pure garden, but she and the White Queen must have had a conversation here. Alice, how long has it been since we last met? Much too long. She looked a bit sleepish for a moment. I'm sure you must have questions. Allow me to explain why I instructed you to seek out the Red Queen when the Red Queen was already dead. We, the Queens of Wonderland, were created with a power within us. I hold power over Wonderland's time. She held power over Wonderland's essence, its space and boundaries. Even a remnant of that power can send you back home. With her corpse gathered, that power can be used. I know. I felt the power take root in my soul. Hee hee, so you do. It's time for you to depart from this imperfect Wonderland, Alice. Wait. The White Queen's brows raised. I like you. I love you. I want to spend more time with you. White Queen, you're always looking far away toward the Red Queen, so I wish you would look at me. The White Queen appeared troubled. She carved herself into my heart irreparably. Blech.
You got that.
A long time ago, she was sadness filled her features. Even though she caged me away, even though I was the one who killed her, how odd, I still cannot put into words what I feel towards her. The Red Queen began to disappear, dissolving into tiny lights. Her corpse faded away as if her role in this world was no longer needed. The White Queen watched with somber eyes. I saw the Red Queen mouth a few words, but I knew that they were not for me. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate of me to say. Perhaps I had long been rejected. The White Queen smiled sadly. No, at first I saw you and thought of the Red Queen. I thought that you could be her. You probably don't remember. The White Queen glanced down shyly, but that was why I dragged you through time and time again, pulling you from a time where, by a miracle, you fell down the rabbit hole into another Wonderland. That was my obsession. She frowned with her. Then she smiled weakly. But eventually I learned that you were different. You were Alice. Perhaps parts of your existence are similar. I could call you her of another world, or her of another world. But you alone are Alice, and I fell in love with you. Kind, soft Alice, who can be a little strange Alice, who chases after her goals. Alice, who somehow fell in love with someone like me. Yes, I think it's a miracle that we met here in this Wonderland. Maybe I can begin to heal. The White Queen gave me a joyous smile. I love you, Alice. Not in the way that I don't know what to feel about the Red Queen, but from the depths of my heart, I love you. The White Queen pressed a kiss on my lips. Oh!
Adorable.
Did I get a good ending or a bad ending? I'm so confused.
Well, I think she loves both the Red Queen and Alice.
Really?
I think so. But obviously, you gotta go with what you've already stuck to.
Yeah, pretty much. The White Queen pressed a kiss on my lips.
Sounds like she got a good ending.
Yeah, my heart raced. I hadn't thought that she would reciprocate my feelings. Tears welled up in my eyes, dripping down my cheeks in disbelief. Kiss me again. We kissed again. La la la. The Queen grinned awkwardly as we did so. White Queen, I love you. I wish that this world were more perfect so that we could be together. Damn, they're crying. Look at her tears there. She's crying.
No.
Yeah. Despite what goes on in our hearts, it's still... Hey, thank you for the follow, by the way. Also, despite what goes on in our hearts, It's still time for you to depart. You have to leave, Alice. Go back home to your own world. Come with me. Here again came the somber smile that was so familiar to her. I can't believe, Alice, but this world will fall apart now that the Red Queen is truly dead, and I have drained my power as well in my selfishness. This imperfect wonderland was a miracle.
Man.
So if you do go with Eye on the Red Queen,
Uh-huh.
that would help Wonderland in a sense. So maybe
guess.
that's the best ending.
Yeah, so maybe that is the best ending, and the bad ending was the tongue being, or the other one.
The Alice ending might be the bad ending. The White Queen ending might be the good one, and this might be the best ending.
Yeah, the good one. I don't know what the good one means, but yeah. I'm glad I was able to meet you. I wanted to stay here by her side. White Queen, truly. She put a hand on my shoulder. Tears spilled forth from her eyes, rolling down her cheeks, her lips in a smile all wide, all the while. Goodbye. And pushed. So someone typed in chat. For some odd reason, I couldn't see it. Ah, there you go. Then I was falling.
A lot of falling. Whole lot of falling.
Yeah, a whole lot of falling in this game. I tried to go back up, but the queen's power wouldn't respond as the gate to return to my own world opened. The power evaporated. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling. How many falling are we gonna do in this game?
I don't know.
The White Queen, I wanted to go back to the White Queen. Yeah, where the fuck is my White Queen? Where's my waifu? Alice, who had never quite wanted to anything so much, wanted to take her hand again, to see her hand to steal a happy ending together with her. Yet no matter what I did, I continued to fall. Through this darkness too bright. Falling, I left Wonderland and could no longer return. If this were the case, I would rather forgotten.
Goddamn.
I would have rather forgotten something very important, but I knew that I would remember everything that happened in Wonderland. I fell until I could fall no more. Hitting the ground, I opened my eyes to reality, seeing my family's house in the distance. The sky was blue, still terribly blue. I started crying. My shoulders shook, hearing as my sisters rushed over to ask what was wrong. I wished and wished to see her again. Surely we would meet again in a reality more wonderful than a dream. One day, while out on a walk with the cats, I stumbled into a girl with white hair. Alice? Well, that was a good ending.
So you got the Alice ending in turn.
I got the Alice ending?
I guess so. Or the White Queen ending.
Am I able to,
I think I might have gotten in the White Queen ending.
We'll have to look it up. Because if that's the case, then that's a good ending to have. I'll take it.
Ooh.
So Kate Sith betrayed us, did he?
Well, shit.
White Queen ending. Thank you for playing. Yeah, so we got the White Queen ending.
Is that the best ending?
I'm guessing, yeah. Script scene, 62%. So what
That
endings
was
are we missing? Am I able to check?
that was a lot of
You
talking.
should be able to get the Alice ending, and you should be able to get it.
Yeah, White
The-
Queen ending.
That was a lot of talking and
the
reading
missing
for
ones.
one stream.
That was a lot of talking and reading. Holy shit. So we got the Red Queen ending. So we need to get the Alice ending and what's the other
The
ending?
Red Queen.
The Red Queen.
And then you have to get the other 4 deaths.
So killing the bird worked?
I guess so. You were kind most of the time.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want this shit more.
Oh frick, maybe I have to freaking romance the frick, because I think in this reality, okay, so I think in this one I romanced the White Queen, but I think in the next one I have to romance the Mad Hatter.
I'm not even sure if there's a good ending in Doki Doki though.
I can send you the what you need to do for the endings.
Yes, please, because I might look it up and see what happens. And then there's
So
Dead
I'm
End 1,
looking
Dead
at the
End
battle
3
pass.
for Fortnite.
Yeah, and fucking holy shit.
Alright, I will end the stream. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching the stream. Whoever supported and commented, thank you, Envy and Nephilim, for entertaining me while I'm playing the game. I needed that. And yeah, I will.
That was a good stream.
Yeah, I'll stream this game probably Monday or something. I don't know. I need a
Yeah,
break from all
three
this
and-
reading.
3.5 hours plus another 45 minutes that
Yeah.
didn't pick up your audio.
Yep. I'll probably delete the 45-minute stream, but yeah. I will talk to you later. Thanks, Crimson, for popping in. Sorry it was a short time that you had to watch, but yeah. Highly suggested. Play this game. It's